All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and start, if that's okay with you guys. Just a quick introduction.
Hello, I'm Amanda Vondra. I'm a senior in the business administration program. I'm the president of BPA.
I'm Lilia Brookshire. I'm the vice president of BPA, and I'm in accounting and finance.
Tonight, we are hosting this event as a part of our mission to kick off the development of BPA. We're a group that brings together a variety of majors from a variety of colleges within Ferris State University. And our overall goal is to provide business education, both for professional development and personal development for college students. We meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. in the Bilk upstairs in room 220. It's open to everyone. So without further ado, we'll welcome Dr. Tyler Watts.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight. Did anybody see these posters around campus in your classrooms? So I know what you're thinking. I saw this poster and said, how could somebody who just graduated high school know this much about race? But I'm here to tell you now. I wanted to introduce Dr. Cartwright mainly so I could tease him a little bit. So now that I've checked that box, but honestly, I wanted to introduce him because I have had the pleasure and privilege of working with this guy and getting to know this guy for the past almost 5 years. And I've just been blown away at his talent and knowledge and skills when it comes to, in particular, real estate. And you'll get a good sense of that when he starts talking. But just business and entrepreneurship and economics and the ways that you can use the skills you're learning in the College of Business, and specifically in economics classes, to really enhance your money-making potential. So if you bear with me, I'm going to take about 1 minute to outline something for you that's going to help, I think, frame what Dr. Cartwright's talking about. So I want to give you just a very brief lesson in how we think about income in economics. Okay, I'll say a couple more things about Dr. Cartwright before I hand it over to him. So we categorize 4 different kinds of income. Wages. How do you earn wages? Well, you get a job, and if you are skilled and in demand, you can make a lot of money, right? You could be a surgeon or a lawyer or something and make a few $100,000. If you're really skilled, you could be like an athlete and make a few $1 million. But you can do pretty well on that. But that's only 1 of 4, and there's going to be definite limits to the amount of wages you can earn, even if you're like one of the most skilled surgeons in the world. So what else is there that you could maybe tack on here? Well, how about interest? How do you earn interest? You earn interest by saving money and accumulating capital. Okay, but interest is going to be just some fixed amount. You know, right now you could buy treasury bills and earn short-term treasury bills 4.2%. Actually, ACG cut students, what's the 10-year yield right now? I told you I'd ask you this.
Or 3.5.
I think it's 3.6, but pretty close. Okay, so there's going to be limits on that, and it's never going to be huge because there's a lot of capital seeking the limited amount of investment opportunities. But that's something you can think about tacking on. What else do we got here? Well, we got rents and profits. Okay. And this is where your real potential is going to lie. What is rents? Rents is the income you earn by owning what we call fixed assets. Assets that are unique and they're hard to replicate. In some cases, they're impossible to replicate. So when you think about paying rent, it's usually associated with land. But there could be other unique, rare fixed assets that nobody else can really get or can get easily. And if you own that asset and it's productive and you can manage it and improve it so it gets more productive, rents can be a really nice source of income, right? And the thing about rents that differentiates it from wages is like how many jobs can you do at a time?
1 or 2.
But yeah, maybe 2, like you can juggle 2 like part-time jobs, but if you really are a skilled worker, probably only 1, right? You can have 1 career in 1 field. So there's going to be a cap on how much you can earn here. But how much fixed assets can you own if you're smart about investing the money you make from your wages or investing the money you make because you started acquiring fixed assets early on? You can just keep on acquiring. And so there's going to be really no limit to the amount of rents you can earn. Finally, profits, as I like to say, is a return to knowledge and specifically entrepreneurial knowledge. So what you're going to hear from Dr. Cartwright is really a combination of how do you acquire fixed assets, and then how do you apply unique entrepreneurial knowledge about a market and about what people want, and about how to produce that, and about how to build relationships with people that can help you provide that in the real estate world in particular. But you can apply this in other fields. And what you'll be able to do is not only earn rent because you just own a fixed asset like a piece of land or a building or a rental apartment or something like that, but you can use your knowledge about the market to transform those assets. You'll hear Dr. Cartwright talk explicitly about this. We're going to take a building, we're going to convert it into multiple units. We're going to fit them out so they're what the people want in this community right now. Okay, so we're going to use the knowledge that you've developed through exhaustive study and paying attention and talking to people to improve the earning potential of those assets. And what you're going to find is that if you start doing this, here's how your income breaks down. You earn some nice money, you know, that you can use to live and eat from your wages, but over the long run, this is going to be the big source of your income down here. Entrepreneurial knowledge combined with owning assets that you manage and improve. So that's how it works. I want you to think about 4 sources of income. It's kind of like, how many sources of income do you want to have in your life? If you want to just have a job, you can live a nice life just having a job. You know, you can probably get like a 3-bedroom house and a camper and go up north on the weekends. But if you really want to have a nice life, you're going to save money, earn interest, and then use those savings to buy fixed assets, and then use your entrepreneurial knowledge to improve those assets and really kill it. Okay, so you want to think about having multiple different sources of income, and that's what Dr. Cartwright's good at, and that's what he's going to let you in on for nothing but the cost of your time tonight. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to you in just a second here, but let me give a few facts about you. Dr. Cartwright's been at Ferris since 2017, right?
Yep.
Dr. Cartwright got his PhD from George Mason University. Pretty good school. I went there too. So we just missed each other though, unfortunately. And he got his BS in mathematical economics from Hampton-Sydney College in Virginia. And he was one of the rare kids that was actually born with a wallet attached to it. You never know that if you didn't know him well. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to you and take it away and have fun.
Thank you, Dr. Watts. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I want to say a couple things up front. Number one, that in economics class, I love to talk to you about how economics is positive. It's costs and benefits, doesn't include our opinion. I'm not acting like an economist now. I'm just talking to you as Alex, the business person. And so I'm going to tell you my opinion. And you know what makes a market? Like if you go and look at the stock market, price of Google, price of Amazon, price of Facebook bouncing around today. And you know why that price is bouncing around? Because fundamentally there's disagreement. Some people wanted to sell, some people wanted to buy. And those buyers and sellers are negotiating that price. That's why it's fluctuating. And so why did I tell you that? Because I'm going to say things that maybe you don't agree with. It's fine. I'm going to say things that other smart people don't agree with. That's fine, right? That's what makes a market. There's entrepreneurs out there that have got different opinions, different predictions about what's going to happen. And so everything that I'm saying tonight, I don't want you to think that it's gospel. This is just mine. However, this comes with a couple caveats. And also the other rule is because I'm not acting as an economist or your professor, I can act as arrogant as I want. So here's why I think that you should listen to my advice and essentially why I'm right. And of course, make up your own mind is that, so I started buying real estate in 2017 in Grand Rapids. I had some small real estate before then. I've got 3 dozen properties in Grand Rapids. Now, at the end of this month, I'm closing on a 122 unit building in Houston. And by May, I'll have another 144 unit building in Houston. And I control somewhere around $15 million worth of real estate. And I've also got multiple houses where I got handed a check to sign to buy the house. And I am also going to be very prescriptive with how I think I ought to manage your money, or you ought to manage your money. And again, this is not to sound judgmental. There are other people out there that might disagree. You're smart, independent thinkers. You can get out there and make your own mind. Okay, I'm just going to give you my unfiltered perspective. I'll say also one other thing. Not only do I think that my perspective is right, so much so that I don't have any problem standing up in front of you and telling you what I think that you should do. But when you evaluate the financial advice that anybody is giving you, before you start, any financial advice anybody's giving you, just look at how much money they have. Because there's going to be a lot of people that if you tell them, I'm fired up to invest in real estate, they're going to say, what happens when the roof falls in? What happens when the toilet blows up in the middle of the night? What happens when the tenant punches a hole in the wall? What happens when people don't pay and you have to evict them? What happens with this? What happens with that? And none of these people that predict all of these problems, right? None of those people own any real estate, and all these naysayers that think that everyone in the world is out to get them, out to screw them, right? They're all poor because they're not problem solvers. They don't have a problem solving mentality. They're fundamentally not entrepreneurs and they don't trade with anybody. That's why they're poor. So first of all, I'm going to tell you about three things. Well, we'll start with chapter 1. I'm going to tell you about three main things today. Number 1, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Everyone in here should do this to buy their first property when they graduate. All right. And we'll walk you through step by step what you ought to do there and why I think you ought to do it. And then once we understand that, and I say we're going to do these three things because I think we're all at different levels here. Some people I don't know, some people I've talked about with real estate before. Then I'm going to show you kind of the next level. Once you've got a property, you're a little more comfortable with risk taking. I'll show you how to get a house for free or better than free. And then I'll show you what type of real estate deals I currently work on right now. And these are the kind of deals that nobody can buy on their own, and how I partner with people to invest their money in real estate and why I'm focused on that versus doing other small deals. So number 1, fundamental lesson here, backing up for just a second. Like Dr. Watts said, the whole reason we're talking about investing here is I want to make sure we got the basics down. The whole reason we're talking about investing, you all are interested in real estate specifically, and I'm going to talk to you about why I like real estate specifically. But the whole reason we're talking about investing is because we realize that trading time for money is not that good of a game. What do I mean by trading time for money? Showing up at a job where you are compensated based on how much time you put into the job. That's got a lot of problems with it, right? That's what, and again, I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. That's what middle class people do for money. Rich people don't work for money. And why is that? Because when you trade time for money, you can't scale. You only have 24 hours in your day. You're only going to get your productivity to be so high. As a very, very, very prestigious lawyer, specialized surgeon, you're going to make a few $100s per hour, and you don't want to have to work 12 hours a day every day. Not only is it not scalable, but it depends on your attitude. What happens if you are sick, or if you just don't feel like working, or if you want to spend more time with your family, or take care of a parent, or go on vacation? You can't always spend time trading time for money. It's dependent on your physical presence and your attitude. So it's not scalable, it's highly dependent on you. And then the last thing, the biggest problem with trading time for money is the highest tax thing you can do. It's taxed at least twice the rate of earning any kind of investment income. So you're limited, right? Limited productivity, limited time, highest tax thing you can do, and it depends on you being in good mind and good health in order to show up and execute on. I don't want to be limited by any of those things. So now we got to turn around and figure out how we're going to invest in some capital. We call it capitalism because you can turn around and buy productive assets, like Dr. Watts mentioned, that will produce cash flow for you on a monthly basis. And I like real estate for a couple of reasons. The number 1 reason is you can buy it with debt. And we're going to talk a lot about debt and why you want to buy things with debt. And like everything that Dave Ramsey said, you should probably do the opposite if you want to be rich, okay? If you want, this is not the room for if you want to be middle class. If your goal is to earn like 80, 100 grand a year, you can leave. We're talking about like 7 figures in here, okay? We don't wanna listen to Dave Ramsey. So why real estate? Because you can buy it with debt, all right? Because it produces cash flow every single month. And because I can't imagine what technology Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Netflix is going to come up with in order to destroy demand for housing. In other words, there's pretty durable demand and there's recession resistant demand, meaning when the economy's growing, when the economy's sliding downwards, everybody still needs a place to live. And there's not enough of it to go around. We can talk about reasons why that is. So there's durable demand, cash flow, and you can buy it with debt. Some other great things about real estate is over time, it tends to go up in value. That's not guaranteed. I don't ever buy real estate for the reason that it's going to go up in value. We call that smoking hopium, just hoping that it's going to go up in value. That's like what you do when you buy Bitcoin. You're just hoping that it's going to go up in value. That's what people do when they buy gold too. They're just hoping it's going to go up in value. We don't want to ever smoke opium, only buy things based on the cash flow that they produce, period. And with real estate also, your equity position tends to go up over time, meaning you pay down that loan and it builds up some equity. And you don't want to have too much equity, which we can talk about. So what everyone needs to do is focus on not trading time for money. You need some place to invest your money. You're probably not going to start out with real estate as your first investment. Okay? This does not mean there is not stuff you can't do right now to prepare to buy a house when you graduate, but this is not something that anybody as a student is going to run out and do in the next 2 or 3 months. So, but that's all right. Let me just show you. I just want you to understand how investment works over time. These folks that have been in my class or are in my class have seen this kind of thing before. Here we have a compound interest calculator. And just notice here that if I just start out with $500 over the next 30 years, I'm assuming an 8% annual return because that's the average return of the S&P 500.
Dr. Cartwright.
Yeah.
You're sharing the screen with the Zoom call.
Am I sharing the screen with the Zoom call? Let's see. There's only 2 people, but I guess we can share with, oh no, there are more. Oh, I have to hit record too, don't I?
No, it's automatically recording.
It's automatically recording, cool.
Yeah, we can see.
Well, we're gonna mute you, that was pretty loud. All right. So $500 over 30 years, I'm assuming 8% because that's the S&P 500 rate of return. If you're able to turn around and save $50 a week, which everybody can, you need nobody's permission, you need no special licenses to invest in the S&P 500. Everybody can figure out how to do it for $50 a week. And if you do that $50 a week consistently, then you are going to have, let's see here. You're going to have $300,000. We're going to compound quarterly. You're going to have a little over $300,000. What's interesting about that, though, it's not so much the amount, but I want to take this rate of return to 0. By taking that rate of return to 0, that shows me the number of dollars that you actually handed over to get that $322,000. Everybody follow me? So that's how the total of that was $50 deposits plus the 500. And that total of the 50 deposits, that's only $78,500. So you took your $78,500 and more than 3x'd it just by getting it invested. Most of the money came from the compounding, not from you depositing the $50 at a time. And let's just stretch this out a little bit more to 45 years. You could deposit $117,500, $50 a week for 45 years. But if it was in something that's compounding, your $117,000 got multiplied by more than 10 or around 10 and becomes 1.1 million. Got your 117, become 1.1 million. That's the power of compounding. That extra $50 a week didn't get any harder. It didn't take any more time. It didn't take any more stress. It didn't take any more schooling. It didn't take any more student loans. You didn't have to go to another one of my classes. You just kept depositing and your balance grew. So what is this all to say? We want to have more money compounding. Even if you do not want to be some real estate entrepreneur, if you don't aspire to own 5,000 units, or even if you just want to have a comfortable life, maybe you just want to be a passive investor in real estate, you're not sure you want to commit to it. What you do want is you want your money compounding. This is the only time in the history of human existence where you could, with no fees, just go onto a website, invest such a little sum, $50 at a time. Again, no license, nobody's permission, no special skills, just discipline. You just go on Acorns or E-Trade or Fidelity and say, I want $50 a week going in. And everybody should be doing that. Now, here's the big constraint. You don't have a lot of control over a lot of these numbers. You don't have control over this number right here. That's up to the market. And you only have so much control over this right here. You could clip coupons. You could try not to eat out as much, right? You could buy used clothes. You could drive an older car for a while, but there's only so much you can do to save more money. You're limited. And you know what most people's biggest expense is? Housing, right? On average in America, we spend a little more than a third of our monthly income on housing. So if you can take your housing expense and turn that into a zero, to where you are no longer paying money out of pocket for housing on a monthly basis, then you can turn around and start compounding a lot more. Let's say your housing payment is $1,000. I mean, can you imagine if we add $1,000 to this? Whoops. Okay, now this is like more money than anybody you know. And I'm not showing you anything that's unrealistic. You might say, oh, it's 45 years. Yeah, well, whatever. How about 30 years? Okay, 6.6 million. You'll still be happy. By the way, just a like small disclaimer here. It's not like money's the most important thing, or it makes you happy, or like whatever. We're not being materialistic or hedonist just because we're here caring about money. I mean, maybe some people do want nice stuff, but money just solves a lot of problems, takes a lot of stress away. And money empowers you to give to the causes that you care about, which may not be some charitable cause. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's Ferris. Maybe it's you want to be a big donor at your church, right? Not saying that we have to be ungrounded like Hollywood divas and like that's what we should all aspire to and want to have millions of dollars just so we can have, I don't know, gold toilets and Ferraris or something like that. We just want to like indulge in lunches of caviar and filet. No, it's not about that. All right. You don't have to, we're not worshiping money here. It's a means to an end. So I just want to make that clear. So you want to get more money compounding, period, no matter who you are. You need to get more money compounding. The best way to do that is to get your housing to be a zero. Thankfully, in West Michigan, a lot of opportunities to make your housing a zero. Every single person here can make their housing expense a zero. My housing expense is zero. I know many students whose housing expense is a zero. Many of my students that have graduated and they've done what I'm about to tell you to do, and now their housing expense is a zero. And here's what you need to do. You need to go and buy a duplex, a 2-unit building. You need to live in 1 unit, and you're going to rent the other one. And the mortgage on the 1 unit is, or I'm sorry, the rent from 1 unit is going to pay the entire mortgage or close to it, but hopefully the entire mortgage, maybe even plus some extra for the entire property, and you're going to live for free in the sense that you are not giving any more money out of your pocket in order to live there. I say free in quotation marks, because of course there's an opportunity cost you living there. You could move out and rent both units, but this is where everybody needs to start in order to get their housing to be a zero. Can you imagine what could you possibly do? Like you graduate, let's say you earn 40, 50 grand. What else could you possibly do to move your income up by 1/3, to have 30% more money every month? Like, let's say you move down to Grand Rapids, 1 bedroom. I rent a lot of 1 bedrooms and right in downtown for $1,400 a month. And those are not the fanciest units, but they're far from the worst. $1,400 a month. There's almost nothing that you can do in your first year graduation to earn another $1,400 a month.
Break up with your girlfriend.
Wow. She's capital investment. I only sold a house one time, and that was to buy engagement ring. So, you know, there might even be times to part with real estate for love. Yeah, your girlfriend costs you $1,400 a month. Better make sure it's the real deal, right? You're invested for the future in her. The $1,400 a month, you're not going to graduate school to put $1,400 a month more in your pocket instantly. You're not driving for Uber to get another $1,400 a month after taxes. You'd have to kill yourself. And you don't want to do anything. So let me tell you something. I've driven 3,000 trips as an Uber driver all night, Friday, Saturday for like multiple years, all through grad school. It's not scalable and you don't want to do it. It's a lot of work. All right. It's a lot of work to do that, to make your extra $1,400 a month. You could get your extra $1,400 a month without spending any more time. No more time. And $1,400 a month that, again, can be compounding or more. So you need to go and buy a duplex. Here's what everyone is going to say to you. Oh, that's hard. The duplex is hard because you're going to live like right next to people, or they're going to live like right above you or right below you. And, you know, you might hear them. This is what my mom told me. You might hear them. You might hear them. Because that's horrible, right? And because that's the most difficult way to make another $1,400 a month is by hearing someone. And when I bought my first duplex, it needed some work, and we can talk about your comfort level of buying something that needs some work, doesn't need some work. And this duplex, the dishwasher didn't work. The only one burner on the stove worked. There's a bunch of duct tape in the refrigerator. And my mom comes over and she's like, why don't you buy one of those nice new houses in the new development in Rockford? And then nighttime comes, you can hear the tenant flush the toilet upstairs. And she's like, gosh, you can hear the people flush the toilet. And it's not like you could hear every toilet in every duplex, but the point is, maybe you could. I'm like, Mom, you have such a bad attitude about it. Like, if this is your attitude, I'll try and dissuade you, but this might not be for you. I'm like, Mom, I love hearing a toilet flush. This is a reminder. Those people are paying me. It's wonderful, right? They're paying every second, every day. I wake up, another day of rent. First of the month comes, boom, they got to pay. Love hearing them flush the toilet. That means we're occupied. Biggest cost in real estate is vacancy. We're occupied. We got people up there. Flush away, right? And then your spouse is gonna say, well, the duplex is kind of small. Maybe you only have like a 2-bedroom or something. So that's exactly why you gotta suck it up and do this while you're young. Because then you'll get married and you'll have a family, and then you'll want a big yard, and then you'll want a garage, and then, you know, your spouse will want a Mercedes or some stupidness, and then she'll want a dog, and this and this and this. There is no duplex that has like a couple thousand square feet per unit. They're all small. So you have to do this when you're young, you see. And not only that, but then you're gonna hear, well, the duplex, you know, it's not in a fancy neighborhood. It's not like right next to all the cool bars and stuff. Once again, who cares? That's why you gotta suck it up and do this while you're young. Another time, I made the mistake of letting my mom come and see some properties with me. By the way, I love my mom. I'm just making jokes here. And she'd come and see some properties with me, and I saw this one property. I liked it. I bought it. It made a lot of money. And she's like, this house, it's ugly. It's ugly. And this is cheap and this is small. She's like, it's kind of ugly. And I'm like, you know what, Mom? If you want to buy something pretty, then go to Nordstrom, right? They'll sell you something pretty. We're trying to buy stuff that makes money. Now Dr. Watts helped me with a lot of renos, and we put in nice stuff, and I want it to look nice, and I care some about the paint and the tile and the appliances and this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I only care about what the place looks like because I want people to rent it, period. I'm not spending extra money on it because I think I want to get into home and garden magazine, right? I could care less. We're not trying to win any interior design awards. We're trying to maximize profits, period. So get right out of your head. If you're going to commit to doing this, you can live for free. You can accelerate your compounding. And these properties are out there. They're not hard to find. And I'm not saying that they're going to be like living in squalor, but you need to get rid of this idea that they're going to be in some fancy neighborhood and they're not necessarily going to be as big as your single family home. Okay. And if your spouse isn't on board with it, then that's a problem. You got to get your spouse on board with the greater mission. And you got to look at the opportunity cost of not doing it when you're young. Again, here's, if you could save your extra $1,000 a month, you're at 6.6 million, 6.7 million. We could do that, or we could go back to our 50,000 a month or $50 a month. And now we're only at 322,000. What's the difference between these two scenarios? Well, in one, we made the cost of our housing zero. And you know what? When the cost of your housing is zero, if you lose your job, if somebody gets sick, who knows what happens in life? That crazy stuff happens in life. When you don't have a housing payment, you don't have to worry about it. You got somewhere to live no matter what. That's incredibly liberating. I don't know that many people that have that. Yet there's plenty of places out there to buy. I'll just walk you around. I'll walk you real quick. I don't think he'd mind me sharing the address. I think it's 1044 Thomas Street. This is a student that graduated here. Yeah, that's it. Graduated a few years ago. I helped him buy this house. All right. And like, this is the exact kind of thing that you all would want to buy because it doesn't need a lot of work. You'll say he paid $200,000 for it. And he wouldn't mind me telling you, he qualified for that loan with a $35,000 a year salary. Did not need to earn some big salary. And he had a little bit of debt, like a $200 or $300 a month car payment. And that was it. All right. So entry-level salary. He bought this house. He bought it with an FHA loan, which is what everybody should get. You can look up what an FHA loan is. But essentially, there is no other loan that allows you to buy a multi-unit property and put down less than 20%. So with the FHA loan, you can buy up to 4 units, putting down only 3.5% of the purchase price. Yeah.
For the closing cost of the FHA loan?
Yeah.
Even then, like, total sum.
You can finance the closing costs, or you can get the seller to pay for them. Yeah, so we'll set that aside. Yeah, but we got more specific advanced questions, then you can let me know. So there are, but just real quick, so there are closing costs. The bank charges some fees to set up a loan, title company charges some fees to do the title work, etc. And so sometimes those closing costs can be a few $1,000s, but you can add, in most instances, those closing costs onto the loan, right? So that you repay those all, and you want to do that too, because you're borrowing that money for 30 years at a pretty low interest rate. And it's worth it to borrow that money versus burn what you have.
Wait, so you say the fees they get added to the loan?
You can do that. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You can. You don't have to, right? You can. Or you can negotiate that the seller of the house pays them. It's called a seller subsidy. And so sometimes you can offer a little bit, like say the closing costs were $5,000. What you can do is write an offer for, let's say, $205, but they pay $5,000 for closing. Maybe they get the $5,000 that they already, right? Like they're getting the price they wanted. You're offering a little more because you want them to pay for closing. So that's a kind of a basic thing to do. So look, is this house the prettiest in the world? No, but it's far from the ugliest. It's got newer windows, it's got vinyl siding. I love all that because it's low maintenance. And the roof is fine. I can talk to you about that. And it's got a nice little garage, and there's 2 bedrooms downstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs. Okay. He bought it with the tenant in place. There are pluses and minuses to buying places that already have tenants in them. I would say that the benefit of buying it with tenants in it is that you get cash flow from day one. And also, the bank will allow you to count that rental income as some of your income to pay back the loan. So that makes the debt easier to qualify for. So there was a tenant upstairs here. The downside is, in Michigan, and this is true almost everywhere, if the tenant has a lease in place, the new owner has to honor that lease. So if you buy something and there's 6 months left on the lease, then you have to honor the lease that the previous landlord signed. That was a legal agreement that gets attached to the property. So a good thing to do during what we call a due diligence or inspection period is to do what we call a lease audit. Get copies of those leases, make sure they don't say anything weird, read through and understand the lease that you're taking over. Make sure that the tenant has been paying on time. And if they're month to month, ask them if they want to stay, if they want to leave, etc. So you've got a good feel of where you are when you buy the place. So he buys it, the tenant is in it. By the way, he did not have to have the tenant's income in order to qualify this with his $35,000 salary, but it can help. It can really help if you're buying a 4-unit and there are 3 units occupied. That can really help qualify you for the loan. The trick is when you're buying with an FHA loan, you have to occupy the property. It has to be your primary residence for 1 year. That's your commitment. And it's called an FHA loan, and they let you put such a low amount of money down because the government is insuring this loan. As somebody that's young, first job, first home, first rental property, low money down, you're a high risk. The bank doesn't want to loan to you. And the government essentially says, we will take care of you. We'll give you some insurance on this person if you let them have this riskier loan. And what banks have found, the government knows that you are very likely to pay on the loan where you're living. Therefore, they require that this be your primary residence for 1 year. You're making that commitment to live there for a year. If you don't live there for a year, you can get in big trouble. What that implies, though, as a buyer is if you need to live there for 1 year, you need one of these to be vacant, or you need a lease to be month to month, because you've got to move into the property within 60 days of closing. Otherwise, you can't put that 3.5% down. So when you go shopping, right, when you go shopping for the first property, you got to decide, do I want to buy one with the unit occupied or not? But there's got to be at least 1 unit that you can move into within 60 days of closing, or you're not going to qualify for that FHA loan. So what's our 3.5% of 200,000 is like $7,000, right? Everybody in here can make $7,000. You can work your butt off over summer, find a way to save $7,000, okay? You need your $7,000, you graduate, you got your $35,000 a year job minimum, you can have that. You also need to have around 6 months of mortgage payments in savings. So ideally, another $5,000 to $7,000 in savings the bank would like to see, in addition to your approximately $7,000 down payment to get that house. He moved in the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, meaning the total housing payment. In the real estate world, they call it the PITI. On that house is $1,200. Okay, he moved in. The rent upstairs is $825. It was month to month. He knocked on the door. He said, "How you doing? I'm the new landlord, and now the rent is $1,250." And the big risk that you run with the landlord is raising the rent like that is you don't want people to leave, because your biggest cost is vacancy, right? Your biggest cost is vacancy. And having an apartment, so like, for example, like we look at Zillow every day. I look at the rental market and I look at what we have for rent. And like, for example, having something listed for rent for like $1,450 and letting it run vacant for 1 month is the same thing as having it rented for all 12 months for about $1,300. So you don't want to pay that high price. You don't want to play the game of waiting around for that one high priced person to come. You don't want to under rent either. You have to be really careful to calculate the vacancy and how expensive that vacancy is. So luckily, when you raise the rent on somebody like that, you don't have to put up with any vacancy. He raised the rent to $1,250. The mortgage payment's $1,200. He's lived there for free for a couple years now. I don't know. It says on here when he bought it. And I want to show you, is this like the fanciest thing in the world? No, but it's perfect for first property. It's got some vinyl floors. The windows that are newer. And like, let's look at the kitchen here for a minute. All right, it's basic. The refrigerator's kind of dented up, and it's like a $500 rental basic rental unit refrigerator. There's no dishwasher. There's one light in this whole room. The ceiling's kind of scarred up and orange peel looking, like it's not the fanciest, but it's free, right? And then after he's lived there for a year, he has the option to move out if he wants. And he can put $1,200 a month in his pocket by renting this one, maybe in this market for a little more than $1,200 a month. Not complicated. Everybody in here can do that. Tenants paying the utilities. If you want to ask me questions about leasing and things of that nature, we can do it. But everybody in here can do exactly what this is. I gotta be, I mean, it's not in like the fanciest neighborhood, but there's nothing wrong with it either. And look, since he bought it, it's gone up about $22,000 in value. So he lived for free, where he saved himself $1,000, $1,200 a month in rental expense. And at the same time, the tenant paid down the mortgage by, I bet you, around $200 a month. That mortgage is going down. So that's $2,400 a year. And that property's gone up in value $22,000 since he bought it. Like, let's think about that. He's lived there for 2 years. Let's think about that real quick. So he saved about, let's say he only saved $1,000 a month times 24. He's lived there for 2 years. He saved $24,000 in rental income. And then he paid down the mortgage, I think around $200 a month for 2 years. So that's $2,400 per year. He got another $4,800 in mortgage pay down. And then the property appreciated here by about $22,000. What is this, Dr. Watts? 48.8. Okay, $48,800 that he managed to gain in 2 years. One property, no special tricks whatsoever, no high income, all right, no special degrees, no more demands on his time. Ask him what broke in this property. One time the toilet handle wasn't flushing right and they replaced the toilet, cost $200. That's all that's happened in those 2 years. And the same tenant has been there the whole time. Talk to other people about how hard it is to save up $49,000. And if you could save up $49,000 in 2 years, how much is that a month? What's $49,000 divided by 24? You're just not doing it. Look, you're not doing it right when you graduate.
About 2,000.
Yeah, about $2,000 a month. You're not doing that after taxes. It's just not happening. So this is what you're going to do. Now, everyone wants to know how we got a house for free. So let me show you that part now. And I'll show you a real house that we got for free. And Dr. Watts helped me with this house. Dr. Watts may not want to work with me anymore once I show how we're getting the house for free. He might not want to do the work. All right, so here's a house that I bought in, well, it doesn't even say, does it? Well, it doesn't matter. I think I bought it in 2021 or something.
Yeah, 21.
21, yeah, okay. Everybody know Wealthy Street in Grand Rapids, kind of a popular place, a lot of bars, places to dance. This is 1 block south of Wealthy Street. This is the picture from the previous listing. Doesn't look very special. And it had sat around on the market for like 30 days. But again, I like that it's got a newer roof, it's got new windows, it's got vinyl siding. I like that those things are done because spending money on that stuff doesn't necessarily get you higher rent. And you only have to do it once every couple decades. So I like that it's done. And you go inside and you're like, it's dingy. It's dirty. There's dirty carpet everywhere. Can you see how dirty the walls are here? Smelled really bad. And let's look at the kitchen. I mean, like there aren't 2 cabinets that match in this kitchen. It's really bad. And there are no pictures on here of the bathroom. It's really, really tiny and just like I wouldn't feel good about myself letting people live there. And by the way, on this listing on Zillow, there were no interior pictures. Whenever you see a house has no interior pictures, you know, because they've got nothing to show you on the inside. Like it's terrible. And so you go with that in mind. And the upstairs is just as nasty. And so, I walked through there and I remember my mom was with me. She's, oh my gosh, who wants this? And I'm like, oh, we want it. We want it. Absolutely, we want it. And it's actually marked incorrectly as being a 2-bedroom on the downstairs and 2-bedroom upstairs. Well, it was 3 downstairs and 2 upstairs. And so it was underpriced because of that reason. And so we came out and I said to the realtor, this is what I always say. Again, this is just my style. Do whatever you want. I say, I'm the easiest buyer in the world. Say, I do this all the time. I don't have to drag you out on inspections. I know what I'm looking for. I know I want this house. I can close quickly. Not going to be difficult. I'm not going to be a lot of drama. I'm the easiest person in the world. You don't have to hold my hand. How much do you want? And they said, I think 170 will get it done. By the way, just ask people, instead of like playing this game back and forth with chicken, just ask them how much they want. See what they say. Sometimes they don't know what to say. They want you to put out the first number. But as a seller, there is kind of an implied burden on them that they speak first. So I just say, how much do you want? They say 170. Okay. What do you think I do? Go home and write an offer for 165? Absolutely not. I know I want the place. I'm not losing the deal over like $3,000 or $4,000. Like there's not a big difference between 3,000 or 4,000 and 0. Right? I'm not getting all tied up over that. I know that I'm getting this house for free. I'll show you why. And so I go home, I write the offer, I write it for 178. I thought they wanted 170. I said, all right, 178, and you guys give 6,000 toward closing costs. And they said, fine. And so they ended up with their 172 or whatever, right? So I'm in it for 178. We're going to do a little math now. I need like a notepad. 170. I guess I'll do it over here. Well, I want to do it where everyone can see. I've got Word. Real simple. Everybody pay attention. We're getting this for free. All right. So our purchase price, 178,000. Now, I had to put 20% down to get the loan. What's 20% of 178? Thereabout. I'll do it for you. Nobody's participating.
35,600.
35,600. And remember, I got them to pay the closing costs. So my down payment, 35,600. All right. Now I understand, maybe not everybody has 35,600, but you could save up.
Got an extra 0 in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I got extra 0. Thank you. 35,600. Then I got my good friend, Dr. Watts, to come in and do some work. And I'll show you what we did. And I mean, we can talk for a long time about what we did here. And it took Dr. Watts probably, I don't know, 60 days or so, would you say? Not like killing ourselves over 60 days, but you know, a good 4 to 5 days a week, leisurely, right? 8 hours a day for 60 days. I brought him lunch and we would chat, listen to economics podcasts. And so what do? We put in some new cabinets. By the way, this looks a lot nicer than your typical rental property, right? You spend just a little bit more and wow, you can really ask for a lot more rent. And these nicer materials are just a lot more durable, right? Like I go ahead, I'm not a big believer in carpet. I put the vinyl plank floor everywhere. Maybe the carpet you can get for $1.50 a square foot, maybe $2, but the carpet is not going to last 5 years.
Carpet's trash.
Carpet's trash. Like this is going to last 10 years. This is a 10-year commercial warranty. It's just a really high grade plastic that looks like wood. And that was, I don't know, around $3, $3.50 a square foot. Maybe so. The point is a little more than carpet, but double the life. So on a per year basis, way, way, way cheaper. And these quartz countertops, significantly more expensive. But again, I don't have to worry about them wearing out. And these appliances, a little bit better than what you see. Like not a lot of rentals have the French door. Not a lot of rentals have the true convection oven. It doesn't cost but 20, maybe 30% more to get nice appliances, and boom, people want the place. And then look, Dr. Watts installed some nice overhead lighting, make the place look nice and modern. We painted it a nice neutral color. We put some nice blinds on the windows. A lot of other places have those really cheap, thin plastic blinds that break on you, those 1-inch mini blinds. Sometimes they're old metal. We don't do any of that. Put nice wood on there, or faux wood. And what else do we spend a little money to do? Oh, I always put a dishwasher. It only costs a couple $100, $500-600. And who wants to live somewhere with no dishwasher, right? That's a nice selling point. And then put some nice in-unit laundry. Just want to get to the laundry. Not every apartment's got in-unit laundry. And so we bought some big ones. I think that both of those cost me around $1,000. And we had to pay to run some new plumbing and stuff. So this is not in the basement. Totally worth it. And so then I got people calling me out the wazoo to live in here. And what do I say to everybody? Well, we just do this on a first come, first served basis. It's available now. It's available if you sign right now. I'm not waiting for anyone. It's available for if you sign right now, right? I got to create urgency, got to create scarcity in the buyer's mind. And there is scarcity and urgency. I'm not lying to them. And so this took about 2 days to rent. When I bought it, it was rented for $875 or something. We turn around and rent it for a base rate of $1,850. Plus, I always hit them up for the $300 move-in fee, right? Because that's the equivalent of $25 a month. And I'm just like, they're like, what is that for? Well, it's for cleaning and it's for administration. You know, I have to put together the lease. Takes me a solid 5 minutes to type somebody's name in that lease, right? I want $300 for that. And then if they've got pets, I love if they have pets. We love pets, right? Love pets. They call, do you take pets? Oh, I love taking pets. They're like, some lady called a few days ago. Oh, nobody wants to take my husky. We've been looking everywhere. We got a husky. I was like, I love huskies. Be glad to take the husky. Only $150 a month will take the husky, right? $500 pet fee. You understand how this works. And so we got somebody with a couple of cats, and you know, then you hit them with the $300 pet fee on the move-in and per pet, and then another $35 a month per pet. And now all of a sudden you're a real capitalist, and we got $2,100 a month coming off of this unit. By the way, did I tell you what the entire mortgage payment is on this house? We haven't even seen upstairs yet. The PITI, remember, principal, interest, taxes, insurance on this house is it's like $1,120 something. Okay. Very affordable, very affordable. We're more than we're almost double that with one unit. So then Dr. Watts and I go upstairs. I'll show you this real quick. And so I need 946-6B number 2. And this presented some challenges. There's kind of a narrow staircase to go upstairs, and our washer dryer wouldn't fit up the staircase. Some of the cabinets wouldn't fit up the staircase. That fridge wouldn't fit up the staircase. And so Dr. Watts, he's a real problem solver. He says, you go and rent a lift, and we'll lift the stuff up and put it in the house over the back porch. And so that's what we did one day. Got all of this upstairs, got the nice looking appliances, nice looking floor. It doesn't have to be the fanciest thing ever. By the way, I bought this fridge for $9.99 at Costco. I bought that dishwasher for $4.99 at Costco. Dr. Watts is such a good friend of mine. I picked up an extra one for him. We call that an efficiency wage, right? We put in this bathroom, we put in a nice new shower, we put in a washer dryer in the unit. This one doesn't even have off-street parking. Turn around, you know, I rented that one for $1,400. No pets, sadly. So now I'm at what, like $2,500 a month off of the property, costs $1,100 a month, but I still haven't showed you how it's free yet. So we put probably in the renovations, I don't think it was quite this much, but let's say we put 45,000 in. All right, so that's a little over $20,000 per unit. That's too much. I did some new wiring. We upgraded the plumbing, and the bathroom's new, floors new, kitchens are new. Okay, we got a lot for that. Didn't replace all the walls. We didn't do any all cosmetic stuff. So now how do I get this for free? Okay, well, and let's look at Zillow here in case you don't believe me. Just want to show you what Zillow says this house is worth. 946. All right, here it is. All right, so this is 209 to 274. I got a broker opinion of value at 270 for this house.
How nasty that kitchen was before.
Yeah, look at that, right? I think that one was rented for 700. So we took about 60 days and then we doubled the rent. All right, so I'm back here. I'm going to show you how this works. Now I'm going back to the bank, going to my friends, the bank. All right, hopefully somebody asked me about why do I want to use the bank here? Why do we want to pay them interest? Why do we want to have debt on this property? We want to not listen to Dave Ramsey, most emphatically not. We go back to the bank. We say, Mr. and Mrs. Banker, we love you. We love you. We want to be indebted to you. Please look at what we've done to the property. We've remodeled it. I've got the rents up to $3,100 a month or whatever it was. $3,500 a month. What do I have them? What's $1,400 and $2,100? $3,500 a month. So I said, well, it's got to be worth $350 if the rents are $3,500 a month. It's kind of a rule of thumb that the gross rents are about 1% of the purchase price. If you can buy something, if it rents for $3,500 a month, if you can buy it for less than $350, generally speaking, it's a good deal. It's kind of a rule of thumb. So I tell them, well, it's got to be worth $350, but they go out and appraise it, and I get a broker opinion of value at $270. Okay, so now it's worth $270. This took about maybe 90 days start to finish. So I go back, now the house is worth $270. We call that our ARV, or our after repair value. We go back $270. By the way, let's just put my current loan on this place is $178 minus $35. Right, that's my current loan on it when I just bought it. So let's see what that is. 178 minus 35, got about $143,000 of debt on that property, and it costs $1,100 a month. So we go back, now it's worth $270. And we say, Mr. Banker, I want a new loan. I want a new loan. And they say, okay, well, we will loan you 75% of what the place is worth. What's it worth? $270. It's irrelevant that I paid $170 for it, right? It's going to be worth way more than that because the rents are so high. It's worth $270. So they say, we will loan 75% of the appraised value. We're going to loan 75% of that 270, which is how much? How much is it? 189. 189, right? We're going to loan 189,000 on this property. Now, I've got to pay off though the previous loan, right? I got to pay off they write the new loan and they say, but we got to pay off the previous. Remember, that's our 189 is my new loan. We got to pay off the original loan, which is 143. Remember that? By the way, these numbers don't feel right. That's because they loaned me 80% of this.
189 was for 70% as well. My bad.
Oh, okay. So how much did I get? I trust you guys. 270 times 75% is 2025. That sounds a lot better. 2025 is the new loan. 75% of 270. Now I've got to pay off the other loan of 143. So they pay off the other loan of 143. What do they do with what's left over? By the way, how much is left over? Sorry, not 2055, typed in wrong. 2025 minus 143. 59,500. What do they do with that?
write you a check.
They write me a check. Okay, they write me a check. That's right. By the way, there's no taxes on that check. That's not some trick either. That's the IRS code. No taxes on that check. 59.5. How much do I, what's that?
Is that because you stepped up your basis?
No, it's because it's not considered a gain. All I've done is taken a loan against my asset, and there's no sale, there's no capital event. Yep. No, haven't stepped up. My basis is the same in their eyes. All right, so I get 59.5 in a check. Remember, how much did I have into the property? Well, I spent about my $35,000 down, and what do we spend on rehab? 45. So 35 and 45. Oh, I got about 80 into it. And then I got 60 back. Ooh. So at the end of the day, I'm left with $20,000 in the property. I didn't quite get it for free, but close. Close. Yes.
How much did it cost to refinance?
Not much. Less than 5,000, 3 to 5,000. Yes,
How much did it cost to get it appraised?
that's part of the closing cost of a couple grand, 3 to 5. The appraisal itself only costs like 400,
The
300,
second
400.
time for the ARV too?
Yep, 300, 400. Yep. My screen's what?
Also on Zoom.
Oh. Resume share. There we go. Good question. So what could I have done to get this for free? Well, I need to spend a little bit less money on the renovation, or I needed to maybe wait until it would appraise for 280, 285. Then I would have got all my capital back. I don't remember exactly what I spent on the reno, but it was a little less than this. And that's why I remember we got the house for almost exactly $0 afterwards. Can you do that? Yes. Did I have to like go and door knock or find some crazy deal or like add 5 rooms onto the back of the house or build something and totally redesign things? No.
You
Right?
need a really reliable contractor though.
So that's right.
So if you were to go through and do minor renovations, what would you recommend? Like, what are the most important things to do if you're just trying to give it a facelift for the cheapest possible?
Yeah, good. So I don't know that I would try and do it as cheap as possible. All right. So like 2 principles to follow there. You want to do whatever the tenants want. Like we're in business now, we got to think about our customers. And so to figure out what the tenants want, I would go and look at the competing properties. Do the competing properties have dishwashers? Do they have in-unit laundry? Do they have off-street parking? Do they have other utilities included? How close are they to the amenities? Do they offer pets, right? How can you compete with the other properties that are available? And then do that. But also, you don't want to buy the cheapest available. Okay, what was I telling the class earlier today? If I said to you, you own the donut shop in Big Rapids, and we could drive a lot of traffic to your donut shop with a billboard on 131, but the billboard costs $75,000 a month. What would you say? What would you say? It's $75,000 a month. Are you interested? Probably not. All right. He's like, hell no, I'm not interested. All right. That's not the right answer. Right. The right answer is this is the only answer. How many customers do I get? If I get 1,000 customers a day, maybe it's worth the 75 grand a month. Right. You cannot calculate an ROI, a return on investment, without knowing what the R is. And some people get scared by the I. So like I'm coaching somebody through. A friend of mine bought a house. He's working on this on right now. I'll show it to you online if you're interested. I'm actually going to go visit and see how he's doing on the construction after I leave here tonight. It's going on right now. And he's like, I don't know, the new cabinets are another 3,500. I don't know, Alex, the quartz countertops, another 2,500. I don't know if I should spend the extra $1,500 to put up a wall for the second bedroom. That seems like it's too much. And I'm like, you idiot. You add 1 more bedroom, this house is going to appraise for another 20 grand. You should be asking, can I add another bedroom somewhere? You should be just jumping with glee to spend your $2,000 on it. So it's not about what's the minimum amount I can spend? It's about how much can I possibly spend? You want to spend money on this stuff and you want to see what the return is going to be on that spending. Right? Maybe spending on some stuff is worth it. Maybe it's not. I've found that the highest ROI is on the kitchens, bathrooms, added square footage. But kitchens and bathrooms are just hard to remodel because you gotta have a carpenter, you gotta have a plumber, you gotta have an electrician, you gotta have somebody do the tile, you gotta have somebody do the countertops, right? You need a lot of different people. And because of that, it takes a lot of time and it's a big management burden. Hence people don't, and it's expensive, right? So hence people don't do a lot of kitchen remodels. But if you can do that, that adds a lot of value. You want to say something on that?
Yeah, I just want to buttress your claim here. So I've managed rentals before and tenants are hard on a rental property. I mean, I'm hard on the house I live in because I have 4 kids, the dog and stuff. So you want to put in nice stuff, especially in the kitchen gets a lot of use. You want to put in those quartz or granite countertops. It's worth it. You want to put in, maybe not premium, but definitely not the lowest grade cabinets. It's worth it. You want to put in a tile floor in the kitchen. It's worth it. You don't want to put carpet anywhere because it's going to look like crap in 2 years. So you don't want to do it. He's exactly right. You don't want to do it as cheap as possible. You want to do it where it maximizes your return over time.
Right. And so there may be some instances, like I used to be the project manager for a lot of trailer parks. So we remodeled a lot of trailers. And there may have been so there were some instances where we did buy the 1999 faucets to put in the trailers. And that made sense there. However, I would never buy the $99 toilet. I would just never do it because it's full of plastic parts inside. That toilet is gonna break. And even if it does, if something breaks one time, you are gonna need to pay your plumber $100 service call to go out and look at the toilet. Whereas the $199 toilet has got a bunch of metal parts inside and it's just far less likely to break. I've never had a $199 American Standard toilet break on me. So I just buy that. I'm thinking like, yeah, this $99 one, it's gonna definitely cost me $99 to repair it one time. It breaks one time, I'm behind. I should have just bought the $199 one and forget it. Yeah.
What type of flooring material, like for things like kitchens and living rooms, was best? I know you showed on the house that what floor material like we're using. Like, does it make sense to put in ever like hardwoods? Is that any?
I would never put in a hardwood.
Not in a rental.
Not in a rental. I mean, like, so I have some higher end properties that are renting for almost $10,000 a month and I've refinished the hardwoods in there, right? But hardwood install could be $10 a square foot. And so this is why you have to go and look at your rental market and figure out what there's demand for. Like in that Houston property, which I can show you in a minute, we're going to rent those things out for $725 to $750. They've got vinyl that not planks, like the sheet of vinyl. Okay. It's kind of like linoleum that looks like hardwood. Okay. Whereas right downtown Grand Rapids, then we've got fully rectified. That means like laser cut, like 1/4 inch thick porcelain on the floors in the kitchen in there. Big difference, right? We got $1 a square foot. We got $10, $13 a square foot. Just depends on the market. Yeah.
So you mentioned, like, obviously you need to sign a contract with the tenant. You
Yeah.
mentioned it would literally take you 5 minutes to change your name. How do you get that contract established when you're starting here?
Okay, that's a great question. So a great podcast to listen to is called Bigger Pockets. And they've got it's like a blog and they've got a podcast and they've got different people have published a lot of books on there. And on that blog, they sell some leases that attorneys have made up for every state. And so I went and bought from there. It's like $99 a Michigan lease. And it would look very thorough to me. And it's got a pet addendum and a couple other things. And so now that I've got that, and it's from a place that I trust, I've just got highlighted the dates, the rent amount, the deposit, right, the names, and I can go through there and change that real quick and zip it to them. Yes, sir.
In this example here, how much money would you have in your bank account before you pull the trigger on this deal? The whole 80 grand that you put into it,
No,
or just the 35?
just the 35, because you really want to be fancy. You can go to Lowe's and they give you a card where you can buy stuff at 0% for 12 months. And I mean, I remember my first house, needed to do my first duplex. I only remodeled the unit upstairs, not the unit that I lived in. And so I went to Lowe's. I filled out the credit application. They gave me like 6, 7, I think it was like 6,000 on their charge card. I maxed that out in one swipe, right? I know Dave Ramsey would never tell you to do that, but I bought that house for 280, and then I think it reappraised for about 480 a year later, right? Totally worth the 20-ish thousand that I spent renovating the one unit and another 20-ish the next unit. And so on the refi, then I took the check and you could pay that off, right? And it didn't cost you anything in interest. Yeah, so you just gotta sit down and budget it out, look at what lines of credit you've got available to you. Regarding though, the screening of the tenants. So what some people do is they make you fill out a background check, probably like when you have applied to rent an apartment around here, you filled out and they did a background and credit check on you. It's very simple to do. You can even have people apply via Zillow. That's what I do. Where all I'm looking for, I don't care that much about the credit score. I'm looking to make sure they're current on all the payments. Depending on what type of property you're renting, if it's like around $1,000, like you're not getting people with 700 credit scores, right? You're getting people that are young and starting out, or people that have marginal credit. And so I'm just looking to make sure that they're on time, their payments, and I'm looking for no prior eviction. And if they've got those two things, then happy to give them a tour. I'm happy to sign the lease with them. Yeah, good questions. What's next? Yes.
I have a question, like, when it comes to, you're really trying to give us examples of like when we get out of college and stuff. I'm trying to think of like credit when it comes to this. How does that, like with our credit and coming into buying our first property, like there's obviously steps and that.
Yeah, so there are a couple things that you need to do, and I'm going to show you how to calculate like what you can afford, what the bank is going to loan to you. I'll show you how to do that in a second if you're interested in that. Here's what you need to do right now is, first of all, you like the optimal credit score is not 800. All right, optimal credit score is not 800. Can we just think about that for a second? Because I'm quite willing to max out the Lowe's card that they give me at 0%, and that'll keep my score from being 800. But like, so what? It's worth it. Don't be obsessed over getting the number as high as possible. Get obsessed about maximizing your passive income. Right? You don't need any special award for having the highest credit score ever. Okay, that's not the goal here. That's no point of pride. The other thing is, what can you do to build credit right now? So when you get the FHA loan, all they do is care about if you're above a certain threshold, which I believe is 650. If you're above 650, everybody gets the same interest rate, and you can get the FHA loan as long as you meet the income requirements. So what can you do right now to ensure you have the 650? Everyone in here is probably over 18. Everybody should have a credit card. And if you've got one, you should go and get another one. And you should go and get one. You're probably going to get one at the bank where you've already got a checking account where you're using. They will be more than glad to let you apply for one. And they'll probably only give you $500 or $1,000 at the beginning. And you should use that regularly. And you don't have to go and pay it instantly. Pay it at the end of the month. Or maybe sometimes make the minimum payment only and pay $10 in interest or whatever to carry it for 1 month and then pay for it. That shows responsible credit use. Or if you're going to buy a car, if you need the loan, in this environment, it almost always makes sense to take the loan because interest rates they've come up a lot, but they're still pretty low. Buy something, and I guess you can touch the camera, right? Buy something like a car and then really pay it down quickly or pay it off. That shows responsible credit use. They took a risk on you and you made the bank whole. So you want to get the credit card, but again, just having it, never charging anything on it, that is not going to demonstrate responsible credit use. And if you've already had one for several months or a year, go and try and get another one. All right? Yeah.
You think a credit union or bank is better to go with?
For what?
Either a credit card or just even taking loans out too.
It doesn't matter, right? The money is all green. The seller of those properties, they don't care where the money comes from, so neither do I. I got loans from credit unions and banks and the Fannie and Freddie and everybody in between. Like, it doesn't matter. I just, wherever is cheapest and they've got the best terms, that's where we go with. Yes.
So what amount of credit utilization would you recommend we use, and how soon, or would you recommend, for example, on current cards, asking for an increase in the amount of credit?
You should every like 6 to 8 months ask for increases on the credit limits if you have one. That's a good thing to do. And your credit to be used to get like the best score, like pre-buying your house, you gotta use less than 30% of your available credit line. But it's not like I'm recommending that. Like, again, maybe it's worth it to use more than 30%. Like, it just depends. You need to have the confidence to weigh the costs and benefits. We're not going to follow any hard and fast rules. We're just going to learn what the costs and benefits are and learn to calculate them. Yes.
Can you do this in any market?
Of course.
What do you mean in market? You mean geographically or in terms of like the business cycle?
I mean, a lot of people in college are gonna be moving back to wherever they're from.
Hmm.
Like, if someone's in Chicago, are they gonna do this in Chicago?
Okay, let me talk about that. So you just need to run the purchase price, right? You need to look at your purchase price versus what the ARV is going to be by looking at other stuff in the market and make sure that you're buying at a price that makes sense to get all of your money back or most of your money back. And sometimes I've gotten over $150,000 back. I think my record is $156,000 more than I had into the property, even after the down payment and the repairs, and no taxes. And I'll show you what we're going to do in a moment on another property. We're going to turn the refinance check into 7 digits, and that's going to be shared with people. And that is, again, not taxed. About your market, here's another thing I hear. Oh, I am going to buy something in XYZ small town market because the properties are cheap. Okay. Like, price is not even one of the top 5 most important things to consider when I'm looking at a property. If it's cheap, it's probably because it's crap. There's probably because there's no future there. And so what are the 5 things I'm looking for in a market? Number 1 thing is there population growth? You've got to have people move into the area. I want above average population growth. And then second to that, I want job growth, because you're not getting population growth without job growth. And then I would really like to have no single employer that is employing more than 20% of everybody in that town, right? I want to, or any sector like healthcare, transport, or something, implying more than 20% of everybody in that town. I want a really diversified employment base. Those are a couple of basics. Yeah.
So what do you do if someone's like, behind on their road and you're living in a duplex?
Yeah, great. So this is why getting the duplex is good, because it's kind of like being a landlord on training wheels. But because you're there all the time, you're seeing what's happening, you're seeing how a tenant lives and treats your place and how they respond to you as a manager. And what you have to remember is that the tenant is not your friend. And like, it's not like I'm trying to be rude to my tenants, but I make absolutely no effort to remember their name. We don't send them Christmas cards or a birthday note or any crap like that, right? Because we're not their friend. We don't need to build any kind of rapport with them for them to be able to leverage this like friendship, personal relationship against us in the event that we've got to have a frank discussion. And I very rarely have somebody that's late on their rent because they're screened and I've got their credit report and I let them know that I'm going to ding their credit report if they don't pay. And I'm automatically adding late fees, $10 a day and a flat $50 for every time that they're late. So incentives speak. But if somebody is late, then I say, you need to pay. What is your plan to pay? And if they don't have a plan, then say, well, if you don't have a plan, I think you need to go ahead and leave. And you want to offer to let them out of the lease, because evictions are expensive. You don't remember, vacancy is the biggest cost. So you don't want to have vacancy, economic vacancy, meaning somebody's not paying, but the unit is still physically occupied. That's like the worst case scenario, right? So if they can't pay, just get them to leave. And people that are tenants and have been tenants a while, they know that they do not want an eviction filed on them. Because when you file an eviction on somebody, that stays on their credit report for 7 years. And that is gonna be extremely hard for them to convince another landlord to take them. When the previous landlord had to go through an expensive, lengthy 3 to 4 month legal process to get them thrown out. And as a matter of fact, at the trailer park, where one of the ones I used to be in charge of, they wouldn't let you live in there for, I think it was $325 a month or something very affordable. And they would take almost anybody's credit, but if you had an eviction, they wouldn't take it.
Can I add something to that? Everything you said is really smart. I just want to add to that as someone who's managed rentals. Yeah, you're gonna have tenants not pay, so you want to be smart about it. You don't want to develop an antagonistic relationship with the tenants because
Right.
then they're gonna do a couple of things. They're gonna be like, well, screw you, you know, monopoly man landlord. I'm just gonna stay here and never pay. And then you have to go through the eviction process and get the sheriff and everything. That can take a long time and it's costly.
Sure.
And then they might trash stuff too.
Right.
And that's a huge cost. You have to go in there and fix all that stuff and paint stuff and tear out the net. Well, you tore out the nasty carpet when you bought it, right? Never carpet. So, make them a deal. Say, look, whatever the situation is, you know, I'm sorry about it, but look, we'll make you a deal. This is gonna be mutually beneficial.
Right.
I'm basically, I don't know if I want to use the word blind, but you're gonna show them the door very easily.
Right.
We're not gonna we're not gonna ruin your life. We're gonna let you move on.
Right.
And you're gonna get out of here so we can rent it again and not have a bunch of damage. So you gotta think about, you know, like cutting the net on a deal, so to speak, in terms of to get them out.
That's right.
Don't attack a
bargain.
That's the tricky part.
And-
That's the
and this is
entrepreneurial
another-
knowledge of land.
And this is absolutely, this is why, another reason why it's not necessarily better to rent cheaper, lower end properties, because let's imagine somebody's gonna damage your property, all right? Well, it costs the same amount of money to patch the drywall, someone put their fist through the wall, costs the same amount of money to patch the drywall in a $100,000 house as it does in an $800,000 house. Costs the same amount of money to replace a piece of glass in a $100,000 house as it does in a $400,000 house. And so, and what kind of tenant is more likely to put their hand through the glass? All right, the folks at the lower end of the income scale tend to beat it up a lot more, and they've gotten lower security deposits involved, and so they stand to lose less. So if you get into higher quality stuff, you tend to have fewer of these problems. Not only that, but those tenants that are renting more expensive stuff, maybe they want to buy a home someday and they're worried about their credit. Or what's really good is if you can rent to somebody that's a professional, a licensed professional, a doctor, a nurse, anybody that's got any kind of license, okay, they can get in deep crap as soon as you start a legal proceeding against them. Okay, or anybody that has to maintain any type of professional insurance in order to do their job, as soon as you start a legal proceeding against them, their employer is going to know about it, their insurance provider is going to know about it, and they're going to start asking a lot of questions, and that can hurt their job. And so they are not going to want you to start that eviction. Yes.
Is there like landlord insurance and is it worth it?
You can buy, when you buy property insurance, you can buy lost income insurance for like if your property burns down. And is it worth it? It depends how much savings you have, whether or not you can self-insure. That's the question you make with all insurance. And all insurance is like, I've got this risk. Is it worth it to pay someone to hold it for me? Maybe you can't afford to hold the risk all on your own. But there's not landlord insurance against like the other than this catastrophic, like the house burns down. Now, one thing that we're doing at my Texas property is we're actually allowing people to move in with no security deposit. Think about how cool this is. You'll be able to move in a place with no security deposit, and you just pay an extra about $20 a month. With that $20 a month, we turn around and buy a $10 to $12 a month insurance policy. So we make money off of it. And that insurance policy, in theory, pays out about $1,000 if the tenant damages the place when they leave. So that product does exist. Yes, and then I saw you. Yes.
But that almost like act as an incentive though, like not to burn the place down or damage it or something.
an incentive to damage it.
Like,
So there's moral hazard with any kind of insurance.
like the deposit. For that, like the, normally, like you said, you don't have a security deposit, but like, you did have a security deposit, they're probably less likely to.
Yeah, so if they sign up for this insurance program and they're paying for it, right? And then we trigger that all, and we make a claim on the insurance, you have an insurance score just like a credit score. And so that would hurt their insurance score and it could also hurt their credit score. Yeah, so there's some cost to them, but you're right, less of a cost. Did you have another question up there?
Yeah. How do you keep the, tenants like? How do you make them like motivate them to stay? Cause like when it's like time to renew the lease or whatever, like, you said like vacancies, but then just.
Yeah, so I reach out to them about 50 days in advance, and this is all set up to be automated. And it says, hey, would you like to stay? And then I always say, if you stay, this is the rent we can commit to you at this time. 30 days from now, we'll have to reevaluate the market condition. And I give them the impression that if they sign now, they're getting a better deal than if they sign later, right? Is this true? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know where the market conditions will go. So kind of hide behind the ambiguity there. Yeah.
Also, I want to add to that, don't be a slumlord. You gotta, when something breaks, you gotta show up and fix it. You gotta take, you are providing housing.
Yeah.
So you can't string people along. You can't not provide them, fully functioning housing. So you gotta fix stuff, keep the grass mowed.
That's right.
It's clean.
That's right.
Give them a nice home and they'll want to stay. Treat them with dignity and respect. They'll want to stay.
That's right. Anything, first of all, I put nice stuff in there that I don't think is gonna break. But if something breaks, boom, we have it fixed. And if we're not asking them, moving is costly. Right, like it's a pain in the butt. Anybody ever enjoyed moving? Like it's horrible. It's horrible. But they don't want to move. Okay, if you're giving them a nice place, then they don't want to move. And you want them to stay. You want to avoid the vacancy. And so really, when I talk to them about renewing the lease, there's kind of an assumption that they're gonna stay. And then some people say, well, I just kind of like to let my lease go month to month. And I say, we just aren't doing it. We don't do month to month here. You have to re-sign for a whole year. You want to do month to month, then your rent goes up 30%. Because that's risky for me too, to go month to month. I want them locked in. Good question. Yes.
And Dr. Bond said he's manage a lot of property. So do you manage all of your own properties or do you outsource that?
Some of both. So like the properties that are not in Grand Rapids, I'm a full-time manager for. I have had some management at some places in Grand Rapids, but right now I don't have a manager because you have to pay for that. And it's typically 8 to 10% of the rents collected. And then typically when they place a tenant, they get 75 to 100% of that tenant's first month rent. So that can be expensive, right? That can equate to around 15% overall of your revenues. And if you are close by, and if you have got somebody set your stuff up right the first time where it's not gonna break, then I think you can get away self-managing for quite a while. Yes.
Speaking of like risk and like liability, a lot of people like talk like LLCs and stuff like that. Is that
Yeah.
something that you recommend or?
So that's not something you guys need to worry about. So here's the thing. If a bank is not writing a loan to your LLC, because when the bank writes a loan to you, they want you to be personally responsible for it, okay? And when a bank writes a loan in the name of the LLC, you aren't responsible. The LLC is responsible. So unless you have a big track record, a big portfolio of real estate, and a bunch of experience, you're not getting a loan in an LLC. I had well over a dozen properties and like 7-figure balance sheet before I got a loan in an LLC. That's the reality. But you don't, everyone's so like freaked out about liability. You are only, I'm not a lawyer here, so like don't not quote me on this advice, but you're only getting in trouble if you were negligent. If somebody burns themselves on the stove, okay, it's very likely that that's their fault. The only way you're liable for that is that they can prove that you did something negligent, careless as a landlord. Not only that, but you can buy liability protection as a landlord when you get your home insurance policy. You can buy millions of dollars worth of this liability protection. It's not very expensive. And you can demand in your lease, which the lease I use does, that the tenants indemnify you, meaning they can't sue you for these kind of problems, and you can also demand that they have renter's insurance. Like maybe you guys have, if you're renting in town, maybe you live somewhere where they demand that you have renter's insurance. And sometimes that's renter's insurance to pay for in case you get hurt or do something dumb. And sometimes that's renter's insurance for the value of the contents of what you've got in your unit. Of course, that part is optional. I don't care if people put insurance on their own stuff, but I demand that they buy my place's $100,000 liability policy. So if they were to sue me and I'm found guilty of being negligent, their insurance pays the first $100,000, and that's very cheap. There's a bunch of places you can buy it online. A lot of my tenants buy it from Lemonade, I think it's called. It's like $15 a year. And that's a pretty common ask in the rental world, to demand that the tenants buy that insurance. Yes.
If you're going into a property with a partner, how does that work for loans?
That's a tricky question. So in my partnerships, it depends, you can structure the partnership however you want. You can structure the partnership such that you're both responsible for the loan. You can structure the partnership such that one person is responsible for the loan. One of the benefits is like when I take investors' dollars to go buy big properties, they're not responsible for the loan. I'm the one that's responsible for the loan. Now, in exchange for that, I'm getting a percentage of the profits, right? I'm gonna get compensated for that. But that might be good because some people can't get a big loan, right? So like the property I'm buying in Houston, I can show it to you if you're interested. That's almost $6 million property. Not everybody can get a loan for $6 million, right? The bank doesn't care. And by the way, $6 million loan, they don't care about your credit score or like your debt to income ratio or like your credit utilization, all this stupid stuff. Nobody cares whatsoever. They don't, not one bit. Never in this transaction has anyone asked me my credit score. Nobody cares one bit, all right, at that level. They care about what is your track record, how much other property do you own? And so because I'm gonna sign to be what's called the guarantor on the loan, I'm getting a bigger percentage of the profits for fulfilling that role. You could structure it however you wanted to with a partner. There are people out there. This is one cool thing about being a rich person. There are people out there, they call them KPs, key principals. And you can come in and be a KP on somebody's deal. That means somebody found a really good deal and they have enough money for the down payment. Maybe they have the money for the reno and everything. They have a good plan, but they don't have enough money to get the loan. It's not a question of credit score. It's a question of net worth. You can come in, be the key principal, be the person that says, yep, I'll sign for the loan. And you can get 20, 30% of an apartment building putting in no money just by signing for the loan. There are people, that's their whole business. I know we've been here for like an hour. Some people may want to leave, but we'll still take one more question. And then if you need to leave, won't hurt my feelings. Yes.
How do you determine the cost of monthly rent?
I look at Zillow and then I will go to shop other properties in the area, right? I'll go and visit those personally and I'll act like I'm a prospective tenant and I'll check out the quality of those places. And I look at the rental market all the time, like almost every day. I look at what's for rent and what it costs. And, but if you're kind of new to doing this is not the only way to do it, but this is a good starting point. You can go to rentometer.com. Okay. And so let's just pick, I'll show you how this works. Let's pick an address on here. Let's pick 946. We'll do that house I just showed you, 946 Sigsbee. Let's see, I've got it rented for $1,850. It's going to be well above market. 3-bedroom. All right. And so it says that there's a 75th percentile. Here are some median, average, and then it shows you here are some comps to look at. So that's a good starting point. Now, not all of these properties are the same, right? The 1,600 unit and the 2,500 unit are going to have some differences, but you can get the addresses and kind of start getting a feel for what rents for what. Yes,
Have you used bigger pockets, rent calculator thing?
yeah, there's no problem with that. It's just a little elementary. But to use their calculators, like if you're just starting out, everybody should listen to those Bigger Pockets podcasts. Everybody should use, they've got some cool calculators on their website you should use. And Bigger Pockets has got a bunch of books. They've got a book on house hacking, book for first-time home buyers. And you should get all of, I mean, you can get these books on Amazon for like $5 and $7. Just absolutely best investment you could ever make. You should make them. Yes.
So one thing I've found, like when trying to listen to the podcast, is I always feel like obviously I'm coming in late on it and they're starting out like, and I don't know most of the terminology they're referring to. So like, where's a good point? Like where to start with something? Like they've been going for years.
All right. So this is, what do you think I'm gonna say?
Doesn't matter where you start, just get started.
That's a good, pretty good answer. I am gonna say that, but if you're listening and somebody says something and you don't know what it is, then look it up. I have to look stuff up all the time. And if you feel like everyone's ahead of you, you don't know what you're doing, then guess what? All of a sudden you're playing with the big boys. I went to this conference a couple weeks ago. I went to dinner. I sat next to somebody that bought $80 million in apartment buildings last year. And I sat next to somebody else that owns $300 million of apartment buildings. And they're talking about having to pay yield maintenance. I know a little bit what yield maintenance is. And they're like, yeah, I had to pay yield maintenance because of the change in the SOFR. And I'm like, I know generally what that is, but I don't really know. Okay, I have a PhD in economics. So what do? Back to the hotel room and read about it. And then, like when we buy this, we're buying a hotel that I'm gonna convert into apartments, and I can tell you why I think that strategy makes a lot of sense. And so when I buy it as a hotel, we have to wait for some zoning change, some use changes, not zoning, but use change, and until it can be apartments. So what are we gonna do to generate cash in the interim? We're gonna rent it as a hotel and rent the rooms by the week and by the month because we have all the furnishings. So then I call up and I ask the management company, hey, can you guys manage a hotel? And then like, as the months pass, like months 3 or 4, it becomes an apartment building. Can you start doing the regular lease? Like, can you do like hotel management and then blend it into apartment management? And they're like, we've never heard of that before. We can't do that. I'm like, you're not who I want to work with, right? You didn't tell me, they didn't ask, let me see if I could work it out. They're just like, it's different. I've never heard of it. It can't be done. Okay. Poverty, scarcity mindset. I don't want to work with them. And then I got somebody else asking me, we can't get on a management place to do, nobody's ever done this before. Ask your manager to manage a hotel for 3 months and then manage an apartment. I'm like, I don't care if anybody's done it before or not. It's irrelevant. That's what we're getting paid for, to figure out how to do that. And by the way, you want to fly where the eagles are, you gotta get used to being alone. Everybody's going to tell you that this is dumb and you can't do it and other people failed and it's risky and blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? All I had to do is find the right person and offer to pay them enough money and they're going to do exactly what I want. I'm not surprised one bit, right? Those people are out there. Whose question was I answering? You. Yeah. So when you don't know something, you go look it up. I have to go look stuff up all the time. Or you call somebody that knows. You don't need to be expert in everything. Good question. Yeah, then we'll come here. Yeah.
How do you make sure you're not over leveraged?
That's a good question. I like to have a couple months worth of reserves, like 4 to 6 months of debt payments and reserves per property. But long story short, the bank is just not going to let you be over leveraged. Like you're going to have to work really hard to over leverage yourself. They like this is the other thing. The bank is the biggest partner in any deal that you have, right? They're putting up 75, 80, 90, maybe 97% of the money on your FHA loan. So they are making sure that you're not over leveraged. Yes.
So what about if you're in grad school? Would you recommend waiting till after you graduate or? if you're-
It depends when you're in grad school, right? Like, again, I've got, notice here, I've got no principles. I'm always saying, look at the costs and benefits. Let's say you're in grad school in Ann Arbor. Well, guess what? That's a really expensive market. It's hyper competitive. There's probably nothing worth buying that you can afford. Even if you can afford the big stuff, to me, that market looks like it's too expensive and the returns are crap. I don't want to earn a lot less than 20%, because if I can earn 8% in the S&P 500 by sitting at home with my feet up, I do not need to go through putting the effort in to earn like right around that by investing in some house, right? If I'm going to take my time to get out there, then I want to hit a home run. So I want big returns. Now, let's say you're going to grad school in Grand Rapids. There's a market where the numbers work really well. Let's say you're going to grad school in Big Rapids. Okay, nothing against Big Rapids. We all like it here, but I'm not buying anything here. Okay, it's got one big employer and you got a college with enrollment that's gone down a little bit. And anything that you are going to be able to afford is not going to have the amenities of the great big complexes. So why do you want to compete with them? So it just really depends on the market. I don't think you're going to be able to buy anything in grad school because you're not going to have a full-time job. So I don't think you're going to have the income, right? But if you do, and you're in the right market, there's always going to be some excuse. Oh, we're about to have a kid. Oh, we're about to get married. Oh, I'm about to do study abroad, like on and on. There's always some busy thing happening in life that you just need to manage around if this is actually your goal. Yes.
I didn't know you're ready to scale up. Is it a risk?
That's the, if you're asking the question, then maybe you're like past, then you definitely can. Like, you need to read this book right here. You heard of that book? Okay, like you need to read that book. Like I have to really honestly ask myself every day, am I even pushing myself to my full potential? And so if you're saying, maybe I should scale, maybe I shouldn't scale. Well, I don't think you're pushing yourself, right? You're not at an uncomfortable spot. And look, some people are really risk averse. All right. I don't know you. Maybe that's you, maybe it's not. But if you're asking the question, then you could probably scale up.
Where are you finding contractors at?
Just call around out of state, you develop a network of people, ask other people who they're using. Go to wherever your supplier is. Like if you're buying, like if I had to find somebody in Grand Rapids in the next few days, I'd go to like where I'm buying cabinets. I'd be like, hey, who do you guys use to install these? Or I'd go to the countertop place. I'd be like, hey, who do you guys use to install these? Or I'd go to the Sherwood-Williams store and I'd be like, hey, who are the guys coming in here and painting all the time? Or you could ask your realtor, or you could ask your insurance broker, your mortgage broker, who they know.
Really good question, and that's one of the biggest entrepreneurial knowledge challenges, especially when you're dealing with renovation. Now, my brother's a builder, and I think one of the keys to his success is that he's got a really good network of contractors. He's got concrete guys, electricians, roofers, plumbers, he's got them all, and he knows that when he schedules them, they're going to show up and work. That's like gold, because it's so hard to find good contractors. So that's a challenge. So you have to cultivate those relationships. Right. You have to treat your contractor really good. Dr. Cartwright treats me really good when I come to work for him because he knows it's solid gold to have a contractor that's going to show up and solve problems and not lying. Right. So he brings me lunch, sometimes without even asking. He shows up with like a hot coffee on a cold day. This guy's, this guy's a good guy after all. I keep working for him, you know?
Yeah, thank you. We got the $2 coffee.
That's key.
That's key, yeah.
With the debt that you're putting into these, are
Yeah.
you hanging on to that debt as long as possible?
As long as possible. Never want to pay it off early. If you want to go, please go. If you want to learn something about debt, then stick around. So, all right, here, you might be like wondering, why are we so fixated on using debt? I want to just type some numbers for you here. So here, remember, I've got this house, $178,000. right? And then I spent 45 on the reno. So, but I have to pay 1,100 a month, okay? So let's just calculate this is a very common metric in real estate, cash on cash return. That's what it's called, cash on cash return. And what you do to get your cash on cash return, you want to take your cash flow, all right, your cash flow per year, annual cash flow, and you want to divide that by, word is not the best for doing this, and you want to divide this by your total investment. And then, of course, you could multiply all that by 100 to be a percentage. So, for example, in this house, we said we were getting, what am I getting? $3,500 a month in rent. Okay. Is that much? Yeah, $3,500 a month in rent. $3,500 a month. Now, look, we need to take some out of that to save for repairs. We could spend a lot of time. A couple weeks ago, I spent a whole weekend at a class with other people that run apartment buildings and doing all kinds of really fancy models that calculate how much to save for repairs. And you could do something like go and find your water heater. Well, the water heater lasts for 15 years. So take your $1,000 water heater, divide it by 15 years. Now you've got how much you got to save every year, right? So you can do something like that, go around and do it for the roof and the windows and all the major appliances in the house. You could do it really specifically. But I would say for your purposes in these small buildings, a good round number, 10% of the rents is going to be enough for repairs and for vacancy. Yeah.
That just makes me think of, my brother had to pay for the furnace for his apartment house because he haven't done that. When it comes to that with properties, does that actually with the furnaces and stuff like that, that's only something that you pay for once every 15.
Yeah, 15, 20 years, the furnace should last. Yep. Yes.
And you're saying 10% of the income that you make on it should be saved toward fixing.
So when you say make, I don't mean profits, I mean gross rent before we subtract out anything. So if we got 3,500 here in gross rent, I want to save around 350 a month. This is way too much, by the way, way too much. But around, and you'll get a better feel for this as you do it more and you'll learn, okay, I got an old furnace here. I might have to spend $4,000 this year, so I better be disciplined in my savings. You'll learn, all right, everything is new here. The tenants are going to stay. I can ease up on savings. And also after you have a couple grand saved per unit, then maybe you can ease off of the savings every month. And, or really what you can do, and I do this, you could take your savings and I've got a little account for every house and I invest that in something that compounds, but something that's kind of low risk, like a corporate bond that might pay me like 4 or 5%. So I'm getting some compounding going on that money that I just kind of set aside for emergencies. And again, after you get maybe 5, 6 grand per unit, you do not need to be putting more in there, but we'll set aside our 10% here. So we've got take away 350. And then we've also got to take away, and this is for, they call it CapEx, for capital expenses. And that's your water heaters and your furnaces and your new windows, your flooring, etc. And this is enough to also account for some vacancy. So then we're going to also take away our $1,100 a month for our PITI. And what does that leave me with in terms of cash flow? Let's see, 3,500 minus 350 minus 1,100. Oops. 2050. Okay, I typed it wrong by thought. Right, so 2050 a month. It's pretty good for 2 units. So now over 2050 divided by, or I'm sorry, over times 12 months is $24,600 per year. All right, that's what I got. That's what you'll get in a year off this property. But now we have to ask ourselves, what did it cost us to get that 24,600 a year? So the question is not, is 24,600 a year really high? Is it really low? Like, irrelevant. What did it cost us? right? In order to get ROI, we got the R now, now we gotta get the I. What did that cost us? So we're getting 24,600 a year. Well, we had to put in the down payment, $35,600, and the renovation, $45,000. So what is this? 35 and 45, about 80. So to get that 24,600 a year, I had to put in 80,000. So you take your 24,600 divided by your 80,000. What is that, Dr. Watts? You all do this with me. A little over 30%. Yeah, a little over 30%. That's my cash on cash return. Notice, that's not counting the equity being built, right? That's not counting paying down the mortgage. That's not counting any appreciation, meaning it's not counting the value of the building going up either. That's just cash. So I would say that's over 20. I feel really good. I'm outperforming the S&P 500 for having to spend my time doing something. I'd buy that all day long.
That's self-management.
That's self-management, right? We didn't take anything out for management. So let's look what happens to this if I were to pay cash. Because everyone thinks here, well, wow, you're paying a loan. I think my loan on this is like around 5%. 5 might be 5.5. And even though I got it in 2021 when rates were low, why is that loan so much higher? Couple reasons. One, that's kind of a low dollar property. The bank can't put that much capital to work, but two, that property is owned by LLC and that loan is written to the LLC and I'm personally responsible for nothing. And so that's riskier for the bank. I got to compensate them for that risk via a higher interest rate. You might say, okay, well, if you don't have any mortgage on it, then you don't have to pay that. Right? You don't have to pay that. Fine. Okay. Now, let's say let's now find my cash on cash return if I don't use the bank. So I got still rent's the same, $3,500 a month. Everyone recognized you have a loan, you don't have a loan, the property rents for the same amount. So I have my $3,500 a month. I still need to save my 10% for vacancy and CapEx. So I'm taking away my $350, but now I don't have to take anything else away because I've got no other bills. This is not quite fair because I got to take some away for property taxes. I don't know how much that is, maybe 5,000 a year or something. So, well, let's just say we take another 300 a month away for the taxes, property taxes. Okay. So what is that? 3,500 minus 350. Dr. Watts is like, you should just do this in Excel. That looks to me like 2,850. 2,850 is more money. There's no doubt it's more money. You don't have debt on your property, your cash flow is going to be higher. Okay. But the question is, what did I have to give up to get the 2,850 a month? 2,850 a month times 12, $34,200 a year. Okay. But again, how much cash did I have to lay out to get that? What's the answer to how much cash I had to lay out to get the $34,200 a year?
All the stuff up there added together,
No. When there's no down payment,
all of it.
right?
The purchase price.
The purchase price. All right, now I probably wouldn't have had to pay 178 because I didn't pay those closing costs. So maybe I could have bought it for 172 or 170. So let's just say I paid 170 plus 170 plus my reno. I would still have to do the renovation, 45,000. Okay. So what is 170 and 45,000? That's 215 together. Everybody agree? So now take your 34,200 and divide that by 215. What is that? About half. About half. Everybody follow me? Why is the return with debt higher? This will always be true if, as long as one other condition holds true. What do you think?
You put less in.
Yes, I put less in, but you had to pay the bank interest, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm glad to pay them 5% interest because I turned around and bought something that's producing way up toward 30%. If I can borrow the money for less than what this building can produce unleveraged, right? Like the building will produce about 16% with all cash. So if I can borrow money at less than 16%, my returns are going up. Okay? So if I borrow at 5.5, great. Now yes, I have to pay back the 5.5, but I've got so much less in it. Look, it literally doubles my return. That's the power of leverage, magnifies your profit. Why do we call it leverage? Because when you put, for example, 25% down, you're putting 1/4 of the purchase price down. We call it leverage in the financial world because that's like every $1 that you use to buy the property got magnified by a factor of 4. Follow me? 25% down. If you're only putting 25% down, that's every dollar you're putting in is getting magnified by 4. The bank's paying you, the bank says, hey, we'll magnify your dollars by 4, pay us 5.5%. I say, sounds like a great deal. Love it. And then you might say, but isn't this more risky because over here with leverage, your cash flow is lower and you're on the hook for that $1,100 a month. Yeah, well, guess what? I am on the hook for $1,100 a month, but here I only put in 80 grand. Here I put in 215. What's 80 grand divided by, what's 215 divided by 80 grand? Look, 215 divided by 80 is 2.68. I could have turned around and bought 3 houses with that 215. Gotten 3 mortgages with that 215. Taken that $22,050 a month and multiplied it by 3. Tell me what's less risky. Have 1 house with only 2 tenants that only produces this a month, or get 6 tenants across 3 houses and multiply that number by 3. Because you can do both with the 215,000. I think it's a lot less likely that all 6 units are vacant, and it's a lot less likely that you're going to run out of reserves when you've got $6,000 a month coming in, as opposed to only $2,800 a month coming in. So as long as you're building up reserves, using leverage magnifies your cash flow, and you're spreading out your income across more tenants, that diversifies your risk. Hence, Dave Ramsey is an idiot, right? Now look, this doesn't hold true for all things.
They might not know about Dave Ramsey.
What do you
Dave
mean?
Ramsey's the guy who says you should get out of debt as fast as you can. Debt is evil.
Right. You guys heard about this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So like, you know, like, I'm sorry to insult your church or your, or whatever that has you like do the index cards and go through the little Dave Ramsey bullshit. That's all fine. If you want to earn 50 grand a year and like have no debt and, you know, I don't know, get a Chevy Blazer and be, you know, you be fine. Like, that's fine. That's not what I want. Okay. So I'm not listening to Dave Ramsey. There's no multimillionaire out there listening to Dave Ramsey. Now, look, if you go and take your credit card and go to Applebee's and don't pay the bill, then you have to pay interest on that. And that just makes your Applebee's more expensive. So you should try not to go into debt to go to Applebee's unless somehow taking someone to dinner at Applebee's is a capital investment. In this situation, we're using debt to buy something that produces cash flow. We're using debt to buy assets. Assets put money in your pocket every month. When you use debt to buy assets, your income goes up. When you use debt to buy liabilities, jewelry, clothes, single family homes, cars, other crap that doesn't make you any money, it just takes money out of your pocket every month. Using debt to buy those things just makes those things more expensive. And so you've got to be aware of that. That's the general rule. Now, I would also I wouldn't pay cash for a car because we're in like a world right now of 7-8% inflation. And you could probably get a loan for nearly half of that. Right. So the loan is, in some senses, better than free. Like the loan is actually discounting the price of the car. So I would take the loan there. But the general rule is whenever you're using debt to buy assets, you're magnifying your returns. As long as the interest rate is lower than that number, than the 100% cash return.
I'm not very, I don't know much about getting loans, but I know once you get your first loan, is it harder to get a second loan?
Depends how responsible you are.
Once you're renting that house out, say for like a year.
You know, when I was at a lower income, then it was hard to get loans. And now bankers call me all the time wanting to give me a loan, right? Why? Because I have demonstrated that I can pay the loan back responsibly. So yes, it gets easier.
But starting off, it can be kind of tricky. Say you're making $50,000 a year, you have a loan out for about $150,000.
Like a student loan?
No, like in a rental property.
Is it gonna be hard to get another one?
Yeah, yeah.
You need to have 20% down.
Right.
No, you probably won't be, the debt that you already have probably won't impact you much because you'll be able to show, look, this income from the second rental property will make so much money, I'll easily pay for the debt on it.
Oh, okay.
But you can't get that FHA loan on the second.
No, you can only do that FHA loan one at a time. Yep. Unless you refi, and yeah, that you can only have one FHA loan at a time. Yeah, it's just like when I sat with the banker to buy this hotel, they didn't say to me, like, not only did they not look at my credit score, they didn't care about, oh, can you afford to pay this? Right, because I'm not paying for it. It's the 122 tenants that are living there that's paying for it. That's all they care about. Like, they're like, well, we want to see your car. They never said to me, we want to see your car payment. They could care less, right? They care about what's happening with that building. Now, if I go and try and buy another house in Grand Rapids, the bank is going to want to see my car payment, right? Because I'm personally responsible, and that's a small time loan. But the bigger the numbers get, the bigger the loan, the bigger the deal, the easier all of this becomes. As bizarre as that sounds. Yeah.
How long do you hold on to these loans? Like there's all different houses in the past.
As long as possible. Right, so like your standard mortgage is 360 payments, 30 years. However, after like 5-6 years, place might be shooting way up in value. I've got a lot of equity, meaning there's a big difference between the market value and the loan balance. I've got a lot of equity in the house. So I say before the loan's even paid off, I might say after 5 years, hey, we want a new loan. I want a new loan. I want to refi. Take my cash out. Let's restart the clock on that 30 years. Right? I cry a little bit every month. All my mortgages get paid down because that's hurting my ROE, my return on equity. I'm paying down the debt. The properties are getting more valuable, but the rent's not going up every single month. But I'm paying down the loan every single month. So I've got more cash. I like to think of it as cash stacked up in the wall. That's not doing anything for me. So yeah, you just look at your ROE. When that ROE goes down, it's time to refi.
There's different like rental strategies you can use to change your ROI. What are your thoughts on short-term rentals like Airbnb?
Yeah, I think that's great. It's just management intensive. Yeah, it's just really management, but it could be worth it. Like I've got some Airbnbs, they're making over $100,000 a year per property. Like that's worth putting up with the BS. I've got some others that they really weren't making that much more than a regular term rental. Like, we had some that was making like $2,000 a month on Airbnb, whereas the long-term rental was like $1,350 to $1,400. And really, after you took out some utility costs and some management headaches, it was the same to just have it on long-term. So we just move those to long-term. So you just will get out there and weigh the costs and benefits. Yeah.
So is refinancing a home better than going to the bank and getting another loan, or maybe not better, but easier?
You mean as opposed to getting a new loan?
Yeah.
Is it easier? I would say it is slightly easier. It's like if they know what the property is, they know you as a borrower, can handle the payments. It's easy, it is quicker, easier, yeah. A little bit. Is that it? Oh, no, go ahead.
I have a question or
No,
anything.
yeah.
Is there, I mean, for what it sounds like, is there even a reason to pay off a house?
Is there a reason to pay off a house? Well,
Aside from like,
maybe, okay, let's cook up some theoretical reasons. Your single family house, like where you personally live, assuming it's not a multifamily, so it doesn't produce any cash flow, right? It's the same thing as going to eat at Applebee's. There's probably good reason to pay that off because the loan just costs money there. There are some circumstances where it might make sense to where, hey, I want my money that I've got as equity in the house invested somewhere. But I could imagine a scenario where you would want your personal house paid off. And maybe you didn't need to have that money invested and you felt that it was some kind of security. The other instance where it would make sense to pay the property off is if the interest rates were high enough. So if the interest rates were just so high that they exceeded the return that you could get, when like it was higher than what you got if you just paid all cash, then you want to pay it off. So like in this instance, if the interest rates were higher than about 16%, it wouldn't make sense to get a loan. Good question. You had your hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
I got two questions.
Okay.
The first one is, how is the ARV determined? How do you decide like that you're gonna put $45,000 into?
Okay, that's a great question. He says, how is the ARV determined? How do you decide how much to spend on the rent out? That's maybe the toughest two questions of this whole strategy. Maybe the toughest two. Because the ARV where is that coming from? That's totally determined by the market, right? Like what are other houses selling for in the neighborhood? That could go up, that could go down. You might disagree with the appraiser. I've had disputes with the appraiser before where they gave me a number that was too low. Sometimes they gave me a number that was higher. And so there is a real art to estimating the ARV, and that just comes with experience. You're out there, you're looking at houses, you're studying the market, you're looking at what is selling. You'll get a feel for it. And the renovation, how to know you're spending too much, you just really have to sit down and analyze, right? Is it worth another 10 grand to make this kitchen even fancier? Is that gonna be worth it on the ARV? Is that gonna be worth it on the rental income? And that is more art than science.
Entrepreneurial knowledge.
That's the entrepreneurial knowledge. So you've got to get out there and look. And
to get that knowledge, you're gonna have to get burned a couple of times.
Sure.
You lose your shirt, but you spend money and then you realize, oh, that didn't work. Okay, that's adding to my knowledge.
Or I spent a little too much or a little too little. Like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I was at another conference and they gave us an apartment deal. It was like a flat. They gave us an apartment deal and they said, tell us what you think this building's worth. And so everybody went and we were in like, I don't know, 10 groups or something, maybe more than that. Maybe it was like 15 groups. And everybody went through and looked at the rent roll, looked at the market and looked at the income and everything. And everybody had a different number, right? That's why it's a market. That's why it's a market. Buyers and sellers get out there in a market, right? We make that price happen. So there's not a science, unfortunately. You bring up an interesting point though with the ARV. Here's what is crappy about the 2-unit game. What's great about it is You could probably get the house for free if you find the right deal, or you could get most of your money back from the refi. You can get a really high return. It can be occupied. We got a great market for it in West Michigan. And Grand Rapids is a great place to buy one of these. You could buy one with $7,000 down, and then you could move out after a year and boom, you got an extra $1,000-1,500 in your pocket, essentially for the rest of your life. Because you put up with living there for just 1 year. Here's the bad part, right? You don't have control over that ARV. You can't control the market going up or down. What if I told you you could control that ARV? That would be freaking cool, right? In commercial property, you can control the ARV, believe it or not. In commercial property, anything over 5 units in the multifamily space, the value of the property is totally determined by the income that property produces, meaning it's totally determined by the rent. This ARV is determined by the appraiser, and where's the appraiser getting the value? The comparables, what's sold in the neighborhood. At the commercial level, they don't look at comparables. They figure any costs and benefits of the property are reflected in the rent, in the income. They look at the income period.
DCF.
They look at, the discounted cash flow. They look at how much income it's producing. So if you can buy something over 5 units and you crank the income up, guaranteed you've raised the value of the property. And then you know exactly how much you've raised it and by how much. So you can go to the bank, do the refi, get the property for free, or get most of your cash back. And you can calculate more precisely how much you're going to be able to get back. And therefore you can calculate more precisely what you should spend on reno and how much you should pay for it. And listen to this. There are a lot of tricks in that. And I know we've been here a while. I'll just share one trick with you real quick. So in multifamily right now, class A multifamily, which is kind of like really nice properties and nice locations, they call those class A. Those properties trade at what we call a 5 cap. So you know how when you buy a company on, let's say, the stock market, those companies have they talk about multiples. Every company is valued based on how much cash it produces. Okay. And so how do you get the value of a company? Take how much cash it's producing and you multiply it by some multiple. Tech companies have really high multiples, like 50, 80 times earnings, because they're growing a lot. An industrial company might only get like a 10 times multiple, like Coca-Cola. It only trades at like 10 or 12 times its earnings. I don't know, we could look it up. But in the class A market right now, in our market for like class A real estate, we see properties traded at a 5 cap. What that means is you take 1 divided by 0.5%, and that comes out to about 20. What that means is that every dollar of net operating income gets multiplied by 20. So if I increase rent by $1, value of my property goes up by 20. And I don't just have to increase rent, okay? I might run around and let's say a common thing that we do, and it's not just me, a lot of other real estate people do this too. They implement what's called a RUBS, which stands for Ratio Utility Billing Service, which is a fancy way for saying we are going to bill you for your share of the water and the gas, any utility that's not split. So I've got one property in Grand Rapids that's a 14-unit property. And if you've ever driven, if you've gone downtown, you've probably seen it. You just don't, you'd probably recognize it. So, but the water is not split. And that's kind of common in older buildings for the water to not be split. So we just wrote in the lease agreement that everybody is going to pay 1/14 of the water bill. You might say, like, what are you doing? Like, how much is the water bill? $1,000 a year or something? Divide that by 14 and like maybe $6-7 a month per tenant. Like, it's just not lots of money. That's not the point, because on these commercial properties, every time I change the income by $1, it's multiplied by 20. So let's say that I start collecting $10 per unit per month. Well, what's $140, because there are 14 units there, times, what's that times 12, Dr. Watts?
140 times 12,
Yes.
1680.
And then you're like, okay, 1680. We're only spending 1680 on water. Why do you want to, I have to pay somebody that works for me to take the water bill, divide it by 14, add it to every tenant's bill on our property management software, send out the bill, make sure they pay their extra $10 for water. What a pain in the neck. All for $1,680 a year. Give me a break. Is that even worth our time? But it's not 1680. It's 1680 times 20. What's 1680 times 20?
34,000.
33,600.
Okay, 33,600. It's 33,600 per year. Just because I implemented the ratio utility billing system. And then I can go to the bank and I say, hey, bank, give me 75% of that. And they will. Tax-free. Cut you check. And imagine if I go around 14 units and I raise everybody's rent $400, which I did. And then you take that times 12, and you take that times 20. And then let's say that we charge for parking, or we charge for insurance, or we have some laundry income, right? On and on and on and on. And all of that gets multiplied by 20. Big ARV. And I can calculate exactly what the ARV is, right? And so you get rewarded for being a better manager. I know, cool stuff. Yeah.
You had more, do you have more of commercial or company, like family style?
Right now, I'm only buying commercial.
You 1031 all of your small properties in the bigger one?
I never need the 1031 because I never sell. All right, so when you 1031, you can sell something, and if you've made a lot of money, if you're selling it for more than you paid, you have to pay taxes on the gain. But there's this loophole for real estate people, 1031. And what that is, it's called a 1031 exchange. You can take all your money from the property you sold, and if you bought a new property within like 60 days, I think, then you don't have to pay any taxes. But I don't do any 1031 because I never sell it. I take other people's 1031 money. And that's always good to find somebody that has 1031 money, because it means they need to buy real estate within 45 days. And so I like finding those people, but I just don't need to do it on myself. I'm not against it. Yes.
What are some of the core things you'd say, this, for first time doing it, and getting started? What would be the 4 or 5 core things you would say?
You need to get a credit card right now. You need to be saving money right now. You need to be educating yourself right now. Best investment you can make is in yourself. And that means you need to be listening to that Bigger Pockets podcast. You need to get the book on house hacking or first time home buyer book from Bigger Pockets. You need to read those. And I would start looking at Zillow and Redfin to familiarize myself with different markets, what different things are renting for, right? Because sometimes something comes available and you got to be able to make a decision in a few hours. And so if you practice, right, you practice looking at stuff, you're gonna have the confidence to make a decision quickly.
How many prospects do you look at to get one deal?
Okay, so around 100. Yeah.
So there's some time investment there.
Yeah, and we have to write, I look at around 100 to make about 20 offers. Make around 20 offers to get one accepted. For every one accepted, probably 50% of those close. So right now, my goal is to have 20 offers out at any given time. I don't have that right now, but I'm trying to work up to the point where I've got 20 offers out at every time in order if I want to close something consistently. So yeah, the point is you need to start looking now, because this is just not like going to Walmart, right? It's like, well, I went to Walmart, they don't have quite what I have, so we go over to Menards, and then I have what I have, I'm gonna go to Target. all right, I'll just go back and sell for what's at Walmart. No. I mean, like, we can look at duplexes right now in Grand Rapids. There's probably 10 available at the most. Right? And probably 75% of those are gonna be like 300 and up. So that's not really a first time home buyer price point. Right? So when those come up and it's a good one, you've gotta be ready. Another good thing to do is, so once you graduate, once you get the job, you've got your savings and you've been educating yourself on this, you go to the mortgage lender. And you say, hey, I want to get pre-qualified for the loan. And they'll look at your finances and they'll say, okay, when you find a house, we've got you all pre-qualified to buy. All you've got it, and then you should submit that pre-qualification letter when you make an offer. And your realtor will know how to do this, because it says, hey, this person's qualified, we're ready to close. Yeah, good question.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Do you recommend becoming a real estate agent?
absolutely not. A lot of people do this because a lot of investors think like, okay, if I become an agent, like I can represent myself, I can get that 3% commission, and then I have to bring less money to close it, right? So just get that 3%, and that's like maybe $5,000-$10,000 discount on the house. That is really, that's, in my opinion, small-minded thinking, right? Because what are you doing as a real estate agent? Same thing with house flippers. You're trading time for money. I'm not trying to be this like miser, get every dollar I can. I'm trying to scale. And the other thing is, a good real estate agent is totally worth their commission, right? They're totally gonna guide you toward and away from different properties. And most real estate agents, what makes a really good real estate agent or broker is that they're super calm. Because in every deal, somebody's got their ego involved. Everyone thinks their house is the prettiest, or everyone thinks that, you know, there's finances involved and stuff. Everyone's got their ego wrapped up. There's inevitably some kind of disagreement or some kind of delay on something. And the good realtor knows how to keep things calm, maybe not repeat everything that they hear from both sides, right? Be a good mediator and make sure everything goes smoothly. And that can be well worth the 3%. As a matter of fact, just real quick, it's actually like my fiance's cousin. That's why I let him do this. My realtor found a house that was not listed for sale. And because she knew that somebody in her office working with these people, older family, I don't know exactly what happened. They passed away or moved to a home or something. So they have this house, and it's not like in disrepair, but it's ugly and not remodeled. And they didn't want to have to spend a lot of money on it to list it for sale. And she said, this real estate agent in her office told her, look, if somebody brings like 115,000, they could just have it. I went and looked at the house. This house is worth 220 all day long after reno. And this house probably $25,000 to $30,000 in reno, and it's worth 220. And it's got a nice space upstairs. You can add a bedroom, make a 3-bedroom house a 4-bedroom. That'll really help up in the value. So is it worth paying somebody 3% to like connect you with that kind of deal, like all day long? And so I was able to connect this guy I know with that real estate agent. He got the house for 115. He's cleaning it up. He's gonna put like a 35 in it. He decided to upgrade a few things a little more, but if it appraises for at least 190. When he refinances, he'll get all of his money back. We could not have done that without the real estate agent.
So do you think single family homes, renting out single family homes is working for you, or is it more units, more better essentially?
Yeah, yes. So if you can find a really good deal on a single family home, maybe I would buy it, but here's a good part about a single family home. It's got the yard. Some apartments don't have that. You can sell it quickly. However, number one most important unit in real estate is the number of doors, meaning number of units. That's where all the value comes from. That's where all the scale comes from. That's where all the income comes from, right? That's the big lever that you pull on to raise the income, is raising the rent. I don't care, like number of doors, is just number one by far what I care about. Price is not even a top five. Like it's doors and it's location.
Well, Dr. Cartwright, let me kind of circle back to something you said earlier, though. To buy a multi-unit, you gotta have some, presence with the bank, right? So
Yeah.
for smaller investors, find some single families and building their portfolios, probably smart.
Absolutely. You find a good deal on a single family at your stage, yeah, but like, would I aspire to have 100 single families? No. Right? With single families, the ARV, again, big question mark.
So if you had, say, 3, 4, 5 single families and then had the opportunity to like cash out and then get a multi-unit property, you would do that then? You'd
Oh, yeah.
sell your single family property?
Yeah, I mean, barring, you'd have to, of course, look at the numbers of everything, but in general, yeah. Because again, on the multi-unit, it trades on the cap rate. I'm totally in charge of the value. Yes.
Do you have specific guidance on utilizing, seller seller finance, like when they are.
Yeah, to make payments to the seller.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty rare. You're probably not gonna find a seller that would agree to let you do that as a young person buying one of your first deals. And if they will, it's probably because it's a crappy property. However, it does happen. I've done it a few times. I have even done seller financing on stuff that's over $5 million. So it can happen and it's out there. And there are a lot of very strong benefits to it. And you just analyze it just like a loan from the bank. There's an interest rate. These are the payments. All the calculations are the same. The great thing about seller financing is you don't get a lot of, hey, show me your net worth. Hey, show me your credit score. Hey, show me your tax returns. Let's argue about what your car payment is and blah, blah, blah. It's just a lot cleaner. We don't have to have an appraisal and an environmental report and wait on everybody's permission. With the seller finance deal, like I've done seller finance deal where it's like, hey, I like your house. You want to buy it? Okay, cool. Let's meet in about 3 days and sign. And boom, it's my house.
Are there specific terms that we should be looking at in that? Like including in that contract?
The seller finance contract itself, I would just, are there any specific things in the seller finance contract? Not that I can think of. You get a lawyer to write it. And then if you're real concerned about it, you could pay your own lawyer to look at it. Won't cost you very much. Just take like an hour of their time, a few $100. They could look at it and make sure that it was fair to both people. That's what I would do. I would just pay a lawyer to look at it. Yeah.
Would you ever refi on a land contract? It doesn't go towards the bank, right? But when the bank looks at your statement, it's not impacting your credit or anything.
Well,
Would you leave the equity in
so that's something to consider. If the bank doesn't know you have the land contract, but usually the land contracts have only good for like 3, 4, 5 years. So you gotta refi it pretty quickly anyway. Yes.
Can you take on debt for a down payment or are there any like down payment assistance programs?
There are. So there's something called MISHDA for first-time home buyers in Michigan where they give you some down payment assistance, but I don't think you can use any of that on a multi-unit. And you cannot, in general, you cannot take on debt for the down payment. And in general, you cannot, you have to be very careful. You can accept a gift from the down payment, for the down payment, like a gift from your parents, but there is some auditing involved to make sure it is a gift. And if they find out it's a loan, you can get in trouble. But yeah, generally, you can't count on getting any loan for the down payment.
You can HELOC.
What's that?
You can HELOC a property.
You say it louder?
A HELOC on the property.
Oh, a HELOC.
Yeah.
But not if you're purchasing it.
Well, if you're going from a couple of single families to a multi,
Oh, if you already own a property. Yeah, if you already own a property, you could take a loan against it and use that for down payment. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, we'll go here and then we'll go to you. Yes,
So when I graduate, I'm going to be a coaching tennis pro.
okay,
So I'm peer commission.
yes. Let me tell you something. I had another student just graduated last year before, tennis pro. Maybe you know him, Andrew Morrison.
Yep.
You know him, okay.
Yeah, he has a first rental because job opportunity popped up somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, so I squeezed it. This is a smart guy. Minored in econ. Smart guy. Okay. Convinced him he needs to do the house hack. He needs to have the duplex. He has a young kid, maybe a little too soon. And like the last year at Ferris, you know what I'm saying? He needs to have that duplex. He needs the security for his family. They got a place to live no matter what happens with his job. And as I understand it, his wife just wasn't having it, right? Wasn't having it, didn't want the duplex, and he couldn't, it was too small, she didn't like, whatever. She had a vision that she wanted some small, single-family home. And so that's what he bought, right? And, I tried to convince him not to do that, but you know, he's an adult. And so, yeah, then I know he got a job, moved away, and now he's renting that thing out, but that's out in where? Lowell or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's some old house out in the middle of some small town. It's like, you know, you got one tenant in there. It's like, they're not paying very much. If they punch up the wall, like it's gonna ruin your cash flow for the whole year. He's probably making $200 a month off of it.
That is barely covering the mortgage.
Right, so he didn't follow my advice, so I'm not defending that. Who's had their hand? Oh, you had your hand, yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on wholesaling?
That's a job, okay? That's a job. That's trading time for money. You want to do that? I mean, that you can get good at it. I got another student that's doing that and with some degree of success. And he works with some other guys from around here that have a whole company doing nothing but wholesaling. But that's a job. That's totally trading time for money. So like, that's kind of the antithesis of what we're trying to build toward here. Yeah.
Did you ever build a property?
I might, and if the numbers make sense, but like different people, like, look, you can make money doing anything, right? Like you can crack the code on single family, crack the code on duplex. You could find some unique strategy on all this stuff. I don't have any unfair advantage, some like special knowledge on how to build. At least like not right now. Dr. Watts and I have kind of talked about it. And if the numbers make sense and I do, then I might, but I'm not an expert in that, right?
I'm not an expert either, but I have built, and I'll just tell you, I think it takes, I'm gonna say a minimum of 3 years to develop the entrepreneurial knowledge, because you, like I was saying earlier, it's the contractors that are key there.
Yeah.
You have to have good contractors to be profitable in building.
Yeah.
And you can't just find those guys, you can't just make a phone call and find those guys. You have to cultivate the relationship.
And construction debt is really expensive. Really expensive. And it's hard to get a construction loan sometimes. So and honestly, like we're at the point now where it's like, well, no need to complicate it. Everybody should just get their first duplex and be really happy. And then you know what you should do? Get another duplex and be really happy and just live in it. Okay, I'm on like my 4th duplex right now. Right? I don't want to buy a single family home. Ride the duplex wave for a little while. And then worry about, am I going to build something, this and this, like, well, worry about that when you have like millions of dollars. Like, but right now, everybody can do what I showed you, that $200,000 duplex, where my student Joey made the 50 grand in 2 years, $35,000 salary, right out of school. Everybody in this room can and should do that.
For you personally, or especially weird, an annual goal for you,
Oh, sorry, say a little louder. Is there a what for me?
Like an angle to there, like where you want to get for yourself?
Yeah. I wanna be, I don't have a unit count, right? I wanna be at a little over $100,000 a month rental income. Right, that's my goal.
You gonna retire then?
No,
So is this your retirement job, sir?
I don't have a retirement. Who wants to retire? I'm not like excited about retirement.
You have the most fun job in the world.
I mean, I'm not getting paid any extra to be here for an extra 3 hours on Thursday night with you. You know, I do like this job. Yeah, so I'm not like to have this retirement goal. Yes,
What if, you already have a single home and a husband and 3 kids?
that's tough. That is tough, definitely. So you got 2 options. You can go home and sit down and talk to them and be like, look, if we really want to be financially free, meaning we want to be in a position where our finances are covered by passive income, where we can have the lifestyle we want, which is maybe only $5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, right? Maybe I would sit down and find out that number. Actually, I have a slide here on some numbers everybody should know for themselves. Sorry, I forgot this. Like, you should know these numbers. But, so you should know what your financial freedom number is. Like, what is the amount of money you'd like to have every month? Maybe to cover your living expenses, to be happy with where you are, where you wouldn't need to work. Then you're financially free. So maybe that number is only like $5 grand a month. So if it's only $5 grand a month, that might only be like 1.5 duplexes away. Maybe you have a bunch of equity in your single family home. I was actually talking to a guy this morning and he's like, yeah, I bought my house in Rockford a long time ago. This is a very humble guy. He's the principal of a small private school. He wouldn't mind me telling you. And he's like, yeah, I paid, like 140 grand for it. And now it's worth about 400. Like, should I sell it? And I'm like, and my wife wants to buy a nicer house. Do we do that? And I'm like, well, and you can do whatever you want, but what I would do is go to the bank, get my 250 in equity. 250 in equity will probably buy $1 million worth of real estate. I'd go and buy 5 or 6 different duplexes, and then you could turn around and buy whatever house you wanted per month with the cash flow, and you wouldn't have to sell your house. So I'd be like, okay, what's my financial freedom number? If it's 5,000 a month, maybe you're only 1.5 duplexes away. We're only talking to like about a 1-year commitment with the family. And maybe we can be like, guys, let's get on board here. What else could we possibly do to boost our income by this much? Like, and a lot of people can't go back to school for like 3-4 years and take on a debt for a $100,000 master's degree to get their income to go up by 1/3 and not have to spend any more money, right? And not have to go find another job in another city. So I'd find the number and then I'd say to the family, like, look, this is the opportunity cost of hanging out here in this house if we don't do this. And if it's a small family, there are duplexes with 3 and 4 bedrooms per unit. They are more rare and they're more expensive and the numbers aren't as good typically, but they're out there. You could start shopping. Or if they're not open to doing the house hack, you could just save up the 20% down. Just buy the duplex. Right, or buy another single family. And that at first is hard, right? Because that can take a while. And that's hard to remain committed to. So that can take more than a year. And that's why you have to have a really strong, compelling reason to keep you on that goal. That's all. Yeah, that's all I do. Those are only 2 options. It's just so much faster if you can move in one for just a year and only put that 3.5% down, right? That's such a game changer
With the FHA.
with the FHA loan. And sorry, go ahead.
How come some sellers, is it true that some sellers don't like the FHA? loan or don't-
Yes. If that is true. That is kind of overblown. Most sellers don't care. So FHA just won't let you buy any house they do have a little bit, because they're taking a big risk on you. I mean, 3.5% down is like basically nothing. They're giving you like the whole loan for the house. They're gonna have, if you don't make the payments, they're gonna have to pay some realtor at least 6% to get it sold, plus other closing costs. So they're taking a huge risk on you to let you put down only 3.5%. So they want to make sure you're buying a house that's in nice condition. So for example, with FHA, you can't buy a house that has any peeling paint. You can't buy a house that has outrageous code violation, like it doesn't have GFCI plugs in the kitchen or something. And so if you've got some sellers that maybe their house needs some work, and maybe it's an older, like unkept house, they don't want to take the FHA offer because they know we're just gonna go down the road with this buyer and we're not gonna be able to close.
You can get a rehab loan.
You can, and that's what John was asking about. You can get this thing called the FHA 203K loan. It's a pain in the ass, but but it can be worth it. What happens is with the FHA 203K loan, that is where FHA loans you the money for the house and they loan you all the money for the rent. And you still only get to put down 3.5%. And you get the rental costs rolled into the mortgage, which is over 30 years, so the payments are super low and the interest rate is very low. However, you have to use an FHA approved contractor, which is good in the sense that it is somebody vetted, tried and true, and will get the job done. It's bad in the sense that they're pretty expensive. Right, their labor cost is higher, but again, it can be worth it, depending on the property and all of the prices.
The first house you showed us that somebody bought that was in Grand Rapids.
Yep,
You said that was like the perfect house for the first buyer.
I think so, yeah.
Will he ever be able to get a free house out of that?
Okay, so he put so low down, and that house was already pretty cleaned up, right? So there's not a lot that not a lot of levers he can pull on to crank that ARV up of that house. So I don't think he's gonna get that one for free. However, it's like, he got to live for free for $7 grand. He also got to make 50 grand in 2 years for $7 grand. Like, we're talking about ROIs in the hundreds of percent. Still really good. Maybe one more question. Sir,
When you're 95 and ready to kick back on a beach and suck on some coconut juice, what's your exit strategy for selling those properties?
I'm never gonna do that. Yeah, I'm never gonna do that. Yeah.
Let's add another question.
But what the exit strategy for the property is, like, I would sell any property if the time was right and there was something else that I wanted to buy. I have a strong bias against it because I like everything I have, and what I have would be pretty hard to replace. But like, there's Dr. Watson and I talk about this sometimes, like, life is not about what you can experience through your 5 senses, like smell, taste, hear, see, what's the other one? Touch. Do that. Barely past the kindergarten 5 senses. Like, life's not about what you can just experience with the 5 senses. There are a lot of people that think everything in life can be experienced through the 5 senses. And to me, those are the people that think, wow, it's a great day if I get to lay in bed. It's a great day if I get to, drink Corona on the beach. These are the people that think life's all about what you can experience through your 5 senses. Don't let that be you. If you don't know what I mean, that life cannot be experienced through all your 5 senses, you haven't gone to school long enough. You're like Aristotle in the cave. Anybody know the story about being in the cave? What is it? What is it?
It was the people in the cave had never been outside the cave, so they don't know sunlight on the outside world.
That's right. Aristotle has got this parable story. People are in the cave. He's like, guys, come see what's outside the cave. They're like, we're cool, bro. We're cool in the cave. He's like, well, there's all kinds of stuff outside the cave. Well, we got coconut juice, we got marijuana, we got bass fishing, we got what? We got country music. We got whatever it is that you like. We got that right here in the cave. You know, we don't need to look for anything else. We got it all right here. And he's like, but don't you want to see outside the cave? No. People outside the cave might be different than me. You know, I might get uncomfortable outside the cave. Might not be as nice outside. It might be scary. You know, I might have to confront some interfere of my own, right? They won't get outside the cave, right? It's kind of our job, right, Dr. Watts? It's like, some of you don't want to get outside the cave, right? And that's fine. Like I tell you, why are you majoring in, let's shut the recording off. I said, why are you majoring in X? Doesn't pay that well. Why are you majoring in it? Are the classes hard? No. Don't you think you could learn everything in that class? Just read the book? Yeah. That's why you're majoring in it. Well, it's just nice and cozy here in the cave. Right? Am I right or am I wrong? I'm like, why don't you major in econ? Well, it's hard. Why don't you do study abroad? Oh, I can't be away from Michigan for a month, you know. I don't want to be in China for a month. That's uncomfortable. Okay, cool. Got it. Stay in the cave then. But I'll shame you for it. I'll try and pull you out, see if you like it. Matthew's almost out of the cave. Right? He's been resisting. What do you want to say?
I was just gonna ask, who does your taxes?
A CPA?
Oh. So what like systems do you use for like the accounting for all of your houses? Because that's one thing.
I'm like so not bothered with this like minutia bullshit. Like, it's just like, what a waste of time. I think it's careless. Is it QuickBooks? Is it Oracle? Is it like, I don't care. Like, I just want to pay someone to think about that, right? Like, it's just such a waste of my time. Should I spend $50 a month on QuickBooks or $99 a month on Oracle? Or I don't even know what the other competitor is. Who cares? It's all like, I want to pay someone to deal with those problems, right? Specialization and division of labor. Where do I need to be? Shopping for deals, right? Shopping for another hotel. In front of investors, right? Collecting checks, signing. You don't need to worry with all that kind of administrative crap. I don't even know what the CPA uses. I have my assistant send the stuff to the CPA. I don't care, right? I care that it's done. I trust that the CPA is right. Like accounting software, it's all the same. Debits, credits, it all adds up the same. Right, John? Doesn't it all work the same?
Sure.
So when we're trying to buy straight out of college, you need to have a job for 2 years to get the FHA.
Oh, that's what you started to ask me, because it was all in commission.
Yeah.
Okay, that is something to really consider here. Okay, when you go get your first job, if you're paid on any kind of commission, like or a realtor or sales job, so you need to have a 2-year history of commission before the bank will count it, and they will just take an average of the last 2 years. And so for most people, the very first year of a commission job, that can be kind of a low number, right? So that biases it against you. So even if you're really trying to get the duplex, like there is a world where it makes sense to take the job that's got maybe a lower overall pay, but a higher base salary versus a job with a low base salary but the huge commission, just for the purposes of getting approved for the loan for the house. Yeah.
Is there private money lenders that would lend to someone off of commission?
Yeah, there are, but it's all gonna be 20 and 30% down. Right? You just can't beat that FHA. You don't need to get some huge salary. I'm telling you, with 35, 40 grand a year, you'd be able to buy your $200,000 house.
But you have to hold that $35,000 job for 2 years?
No.
So how long when you get the job before those just?
Depends on your credit, depends on your lender.
They're probably gonna ask for about 2 months of pay stubs.
Yeah, they'll probably ask for a couple months of pay stubs, but once you're older, you don't even have to have the job. You can take the letter. You can take the employment letter to the bank. Yeah. I know, then you want to have, this is better if you record. If you want to have somebody like me that's your boss, and you go, hey, I'm trying to get this done. I'm like, well, you're gonna work hard. I know what that, you need that letter to say. I'll give you a bonus if you're working hard. I know how this game works. Who had their hand up?
I was gonna say, okay, you wanna be our boss, how do we become your employee?
Then you're working.
You solve problems. You solve problems. This is what you have to do for everybody. You do not go up to people you like and be like, oh, I want to be your intern. I want you to mentor me, blah, 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 blah. It's like a huge pain in the ass. I don't want to have to tell somebody what to do, and nor does anyone else that's busy and has a system, right? You need to solve problems for them and then go to them. Like, you don't want to if somebody were to come to me and be like, I want to do an internship, I'm like, great, now you've given me a problem. You've given me another task that I don't want that. Or like, this is kind of a long story, but he wouldn't mind me telling you this. This student, another faculty member, begged me to let this student do some work for me. And so I tell this guy, okay, you have to do this. You need to build this furniture. You need to meet these tenants. You need to do all this other stuff. And he has to go to all these properties, take the trash out and then put the trash back. Straightforward. So then he tells me, well, I'm going out of town for a few weeks. Okay. That's all he says. And I say, what's your plan to take care of the trash? Right? And he doesn't have a plan. Well, I'm going out of town. I'm like, well, that's just a stupid employee mentality, right? All you've done is just given me a problem. He should have just found someone else to do the trash and not even told me about it, or said, I'm going out of town, but I found this other person who's going to take care of it. Is that okay? Right? That's what I think, like, if they're making things easier, that's what creates value. If you can get around somebody or they've got a problem, present them with solutions. Like, you just go to them and say, hey, I noticed that it might be able to help you if I did X or Y. Could I do X or Y for you? And just do it. And if they're real happy, they're gonna pay you to stay around. And then you're always gonna have a job.
What if, like you moved, like your job, like the houses, does it make sense to sell them? Or
It really depends on the market and the type of house. Sorry, I'm not giving a clear answer. If there's just this kind of a plain Jane house, you calculate what you can make off of the rent, what's the cash on cash return versus what would happen if you put that money somewhere else. And if it's a single family house, I'm already biased against it. It's a small town, I'm biased against it. Right, the rent's not that high, I'm biased against it. So in most cases, I would sell.
Do co-signers count against you in any way?
Define count against you.
So like, would that be an issue later on when you have a property and you move out of it, you rent it out?
If somebody co-signs on your loan, they're responsible, so they might demand things of you.
But can they make you do anything with the property?
Depends what you agree to with them. Potentially, you want to get an agreement in writing with them. They're going to co-sign your loan. You don't need to. Nobody in here really needs to worry about their parents co-signing their loan. Get the job, save the 10, 12 grand, get the duplex all on your own. You can do it all on your own. And if you're married young, not saying I'm just do what is best for you there. I'm not saying this is a reason to get married, but if you were married, then you could count both people's income together to qualify for the house. So that makes it significantly easier. All right, everybody. Been a great crowd. Was a good time. We'll do it again.